On May 5th, 1993, the town of West Memphis was searching for 3 8-year-old boys who went out riding bikes and never returned home. The boys were found the following day in a bayou, their bodies submerged and intentionally hidden. The small town was rocked and banded together to support the families to find the culprits of the crime. They were angry and needed justice, so police moved quick, with the eyes of the media on their every move. 3 teenage boys were arrested and police were confident they had the right people behind bars. But years later, there are still so many questions swirling around the case that remain unanswered. And ultimately, the story of the 3 boys, Stevie Branch, Michael Moore and Christopher Byers, is unknown and they are yet to receive true justice. Hello everyone and welcome back to the 29th episode of Spooky and Kooky.
Thank you for joining our little Spooky and Kooky universe, and as ever, if you're into anything horror, conspiracy, a little bit of true crime like we said, paranormal, anything that's a little bit peculiar, a little bit odd, we love it all and we will cover it.
We
probably
have no niche.
Yeah.
Basically.
If it's spooky and it's kooky, we're into it.
So a couple of things before we get into today's episode. Like I said in the last episode, we're doing some episodes where one of us will be telling the story and the other one will be reacting. This is one of those episodes. I'm going to be telling Ellen about the West Memphis 3 case that she has never heard of. And I know this is a really big case. I know everyone and their wife has covered this case. But if you're anything like me, you can't just watch one video on it and feel like you know the case. You have to watch so many different angles and so many different opinions. And there is a lot in this case. There is a whole podcast dedicated to this sole case. And there's just a lot. There's a couple of documentaries that I'm going to reference. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'm going to give a blanket trigger warning because I'm not going to remember to say it when I'm going into specific things, but this is about quite a brutal murder of 3 8-year-old boys. So I'm going to be going into details. I've tried to keep it quite minimal of those distressing details, but if it's something that's going to upset you, just don't watch this episode. Look after yourself.
Yeah, and now you don't have to go watch loads of videos on it because we've covered it all in one.
To be fair, this case, I watched a documentary called West Memphis 8 years ago, and I watched it the same year that I watched the Who Took Johnny case, the case of Johnny Gosch, which we've also covered. These cases have stuck with me. It was a good year for true crime on Netflix, quite clearly. And I'm just so surprised you haven't heard of it. And I'm really excited to tell you about it and get your thoughts on it and opinions on it. It is the most researched I've ever done for an episode.
Really?
So it could be a long one. I'm just going to warn everyone it could be a long one. But I am going to try and keep it as least tangents as I possibly can. I promise I'll try.
Well, we always have one tangent.
It's what I'm basically trying to say. So without further ado, we'll jump into it. Otherwise, it's going to be even longer than it needs to be. So we're going to be going over to West Memphis, Arkansas in the US of A. And this is a small town that sits along the Mississippi River and it's opposite Memphis, Tennessee. It's kind of a cliche in true crime stories where they say the town, you didn't lock your doors.
It's a sleepy town.
Yeah, it's a town where you trusted everyone, you didn't lock your doors, you let the children play out without supervision. So it's quite a close-knit town. And if you didn't live in West Memphis or have family there, there's not really a reason to go there.
Okay.
There's an area in West Memphis which is on the pictures. It's called Robin Hood Hills. And it's a large wooded area that local children would love to play out in. It's kind of ideal for local children. There's not much else going on there, and they would go out and ride their bikes. There is a big bayou, and it's a drainage ditch that was created in the 80s because of a flood. So they created this to kind of put flood water into Mississippi River. So it kind of sounds like a small drainage ditch, but it was actually a 10-mile bayou that was 40 foot wide in some areas and as deep as 4 foot. So it's quite big. And
I bet the kids love that.
I know. Yeah. And you would think children used to play out without supervision. I think the parents were a bit concerned that they would go to Robin Hood Hills and play with such a large body of water there, but they would still go there without supervision.
Of course.
Because the parents aren't supervising them, so who's going to stop them? There was a pipe bridge over the bayou that would lead you to a more heavily wooded area that was called Devil's Den.
Right.
The younger kids didn't tend to go there.
Okay.
The older kids, the teenage kids, it's a heavily wooded area. It's secluded. There was alcohol cans and bottles left there, condoms, cigarette butts. Probably they would smoke weed there. You know, just get out to the debauchery that teenagers do. Next to the Devil's Den area, which again I'll put the picture that I've showed Ellen up, there is a truck stop. So very occasionally you would get transients, hitchhikers, truckers kind of wander through the area, which again, probably a bit of concern for the parents, but there hadn't really been any problems. Arkansas is located in America's Bible Belt. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people in West Memphis, especially in the 90s, they were traditional Christian values and going to church every Sunday. And in the 80s and 90s, there was satanic panic in the religious communities, and there was more and more resources that came out that was kind of warning parents about signs that their teenagers could be into satanic cult activity. One thing was wearing black or listening to heavy metal music. And if you're watching on video, if you've been with us for any length of time, you know me and Ellen have our specific styles that we kind of stick to. You love your dungarees.
Love a dungaree.
We both love a pinafore.
Yeah.
And I love a band tee.
Yeah.
I'm all about comfort every day. And for today's episode, we have both donned rock band t-shirts just to be part of the satanic culture.
Just a little middle finger to that. It's not a phase.
Yeah, and the resources that would come out and say this, it wasn't really based in any fact. It was just fueled by conspiracy and anxiety from the other side, and it kind of felt like a bit of a morality war, this satanic panic between good or God and the devil, really. It was like a morality war.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. Honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that it happened. It was like a modern day witch hunt, and this case has a lot of themes of the Salem witch trials, and I'll go into why. So we're going to go back to May the 6th, when the bodies of the 3 8-year-old boys were found, and they were Stevie Branch, Michael Moore and Christopher Byers, and they were recovered from the bayou in Robin Hood Hills. The murder of the children has tainted the area. If you say West Memphis, obviously you don't know the case, but I'm guessing you probably don't know the town of West Memphis.
No, but I think I have heard the name of it. I just don't know.
Maybe Memphis, because that's...
I think West Memphis 3 I have heard of. I just don't know what it is.
I would be surprised if you haven't.
Yeah, I've just never watched anything on it, or, you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately there's quite a few cases like this where a small town is remembered for a horrific murder, and this is definitely one of them. The name West Memphis has kind of become synonymous with this event, unfortunately.
I guess if you don't really have anything else, it's harder to plaster something else over it, or like for people to forget it if no one knows you for anything else and you're a very small town. This
was horrific, and there's been so much conspiracy and questions, like I said in the teaser, still swirling around, so it's kind of hard to forget. And West Memphis during this time had a spotlight on it because obviously they were trying to solve this crime, and the eyes of the media were watching. So we're going to go back to May the 5th, the day before, where Weaver Elementary School finished for the day, and 8-year-old Stevie Branch was picked up by his mother Pam Hobbs and his younger sister, I think she was 4 years old, called Amanda. And Pam Hobbs recalls the whole way home, which was only a short walk back to their house on Macaulay Street in West Memphis, Stevie was just telling her that he loved her over and over, which is a really nice memory, I'm sure, that she cherishes. When they got home, it was around 3 p.m, and Stevie loved being outdoors. He loved riding his bike. It was sunny outside, so he wanted to take advantage of the afternoon. So he asked Pam, can I go out and ride my bike? And Pam initially said no because she wanted Stevie to do his homework. But Stevie was really smart and a diligent student. He was actually on the honour roll in school.
They have that at like age 8.
We're British, so I'm not really sure what the honour roll actually is, but I just know it's for gifted children.
Oh, okay. What did we have the thing? Is it Mensa? No. What is it? what's our version?
I don't know.
Is it Mensa actually?
No, because that's the like high society of like really smart people. No, I don't know. I just think we just have like gifted students, and they don't really get anything to acknowledge it.
It's just funny that I don't. My stupidity, like, is it Mensa? The irony.
Yeah. So Stevie just seemed like such a delight to friends and family who knew him. He was a Cub Scout and loved doing projects with his Cub Scout troop. His mum called him her little Elvis because he also loved to sing. He loved the show Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Obviously.
And he taught himself to do backflips, and he would love showing off his Ninja Turtle moves to people. It really reminds me of when a kid's like, watch this, and they just spin around.
Watching.
Yeah.
I wonder which Ninja Turtle he was. Oh.
Yeah, I've never watched it, so... No, I've never watched it, weirdly. He lived with his mum, sister and stepdad Terry Hobbs on Macaulay Street, like I said. Terry Hobbs and Pam got together and had his younger sister Amanda. Stevie's dad and his mum split when he was quite young. Stevie loved being a big brother. He was really proud of his role and he took it quite seriously. So anyway, Pam said, you need to do your homework first, but as he was a diligent student, he had already done it.
Oh,
so
wow.
He showed Pam to prove it. She was satisfied and she said, okay, you can go and ride your bike out the front, but you're not going too far, because at 5 o'clock she was training to be a closing manager at work this day at the Catfish Island restaurant. Mm-hmm. So she didn't want him going off too far because she had to prepare dinner, wash her work uniform, do everything like that. So he was riding his bike out the front for a little while until his little friend came along, which is Michael Moore. Mm-hmm. And Michael Moore, it's so cute. He loved being a Cub Scout as well as Stevie, and he would wear his Cub Scout uniform whenever he got the chance. Aww. And there's actually pictures of them on the document I gave you. Oh, and in the picture, Michael Moore is actually wearing his Cub Scout uniform.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he looks really sad in that.
I know. I don't know why he looks so sad. I thought that. He does look really sad. But
Stevie does look really confident. You can see. He looks like a little cheeky chappy.
Yeah, I was going to say a little cheeky chap. On this day, unfortunately, he rushed home to get his Cub Scout uniform on to go out riding bikes with his best friend Stevie. Now, Michael Moore lived on East Barton in West Memphis, and he lived with his mum Dana, his father Todd, and his older sister Dawn, who I believe was 9 years old, and she was actually Stevie's little girlfriend. Aww. So you know you date your friends, sisters and brothers at that age. And Michael was loved by both kids and adults. He had a great sense of humour and he was like a natural born leader. So I think he was quite a trusted boy.
Yeah.
So he came along on his bike and said to Stevie, do you want to come out and ride bikes with me? So they both went into Pam, asked her if they could go out. And Pam was at first said no, but you know what kids are like, they just keep asking. Going. So Pam said, okay, you can go, but on the condition that Stevie needs to be home at 4:30 p.m. so I can get to work. And they both agreed. Michael assured her, and they went off riding their bikes. So Pam continued to prepare dinner until she got a knock at the door, which was both of the boys' little friend, Christopher Byers. And he was asking if the boys were in, and Pam said, you just missed them. But when he was at the door, he noticed that Stevie's sister Amanda was watching Muppet Babies on the telly, which Christopher loved, so he asked Pam if he could come in and watch the telly with Stevie's sister Amanda.
Yeah.
So he sat down and watched Muppet Babies until 4 p.m. When the episode ended, he got up and left, and Pam assumed he's going to find the other boys. Now, Christopher Byers, I feel really bad for this kid because the other two kind of had glowing character descriptions, and it's really sad that what's known about Christopher is more about his behavioural issues.
Right.
And Christopher was nicknamed Wormer by people who knew him because he would fidget about so much.
Aww.
He was later prescribed Ritalin for ADHD, so it kind of explains it. And he had some behavioural issues. He would get in fights at school, and he would also start a few fires. Which ADHD, I know you've got a low impulsivity threshold, but I think that's probably a more disturbing pattern of behaviour at 8 years old that might suggest something deeper. He lived with his mother, Melissa Byers, on East Barton, and he lived close to the Moore house. They said they were neighbours, so I can't work out if they were neighbours adjacent to each other or opposite each other, but they were neighbours.
Close.
And the Byers and the Moores used to be close, but they had some sort of falling out, and the Moores would get annoyed at people coming over to visit the Byers' house and parking over their land and all of that. So they had a bit of beef, but not like huge beef, just normal, mundane neighbourhood stuff. So he lived with his mum, Melissa, his stepfather, John Mark Byers, and John's son from a previous marriage, Ryan. Christopher's name, when he was born, was actually Christopher Lee, whatever the last name was. So his middle name was Lee. Mm-hmm. When John and Melissa got married, obviously his name changed to Byers because he was adopted by John.
Yeah.
They changed his middle name to Mark.
What? That's weird.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Well, I've never heard of someone changing their middle name.
Yeah. And it's weird that it happened when he was, I think it was when he was 6 years
Was his
old.
middle name the same as his original dad's name?
I don't know.
Maybe it was.
Still,
but
it's just a bit
I don't
weird.
know, because if it was his dad's name, it depends how petty the new mum, the mum and the new dad are.
So John Mark Byers, I'm going to go in to him more later, but he is a first-class grade A wackadoodle-doo.
So there you go. That's probably why. Then.
Yeah. And do you know what? This is why I feel so sorry for Christopher, because he just seemed to be a problem to the family because of his behaviour. And John Mark Byers was unemployed in this time, and on this day he was in Memphis getting medical tests from 9 a.m. and he wasn't home by the time Christopher got home from school. Melissa was at work, and I assume Ryan, he was at an older school, so he would have, maybe his school got out later, or he was out playing with friends, because he wasn't home when Christopher got home. And why that's significant is because Christopher wasn't entrusted with a key to the house. Ryan was. So he was expected to get home and wait on the front doorstep until someone came and let him in.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So you can see why he kind of toddled off to Pam's.
That's so sad.
And asked to come in
and
to watch
TV.
Muppet Babies. Because he was... And if you've got ADHD, you've got a lot of energy. You can't just expect him to sit there.
Yeah, and just wait for
like, no wonder he was off starting fires and shit out of boredom. By the time John got home at 3:50 p.m, Christopher wasn't there, because we know he was at the Hobbs house watching Muppet Babies.
Yeah.
And John needed to go back out to drop his son Ryan to court because he was testifying as a witness in a hit and run case. So he needed to go back out and drop him off for 4 p.m. So they went back out, and obviously Pam assumed that Christopher Byers had gone off to find Stevie, but there's actually evidence that when John returned home from dropping Ryan off, he also picked his wife Melissa up from work, and when they got home, there was a window that was ajar and the seal had been broken, and there was a chair or something in front of the window blocking it. So Christopher had tried to get in, but couldn't, so broke the seal on the window. So anyway, John and Melissa gets home, sees that, but doesn't see Christopher. When John goes back out to collect Ryan from court, he sees Christopher going down the road on his skateboard on his belly. He didn't have a bike, he had a skateboard.
Okay.
He was alone at this point. John picked him up, took him home, hit him with a belt a couple of times for not waiting on the doorstep for him. So it wasn't just wait here until we get home, or do what you want until we get home. It was, you are expected to sit here and wait. That is weird.
That is weird.
So weird. And I don't know if it's because John was unemployed at this time, so maybe usually John would be home when he got home and it was just this day, but I still just find it odd, because
just
what if John's out and about? Literally, what is the harm?
Yeah.
Even if someone finds a lost key, they're not going to know it's for your house unless you put your freaking name on it.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand why.
We shouldn't even be on his own in the first place, really. At 8.
Literally.
That's wild.
I don't understand it. Anyway, he comes home, hits Christopher with a belt, goes back out to pick up Ryan because he still needs to do that. Before he goes out, he says to Christopher, as part of your punishment, so the belt wasn't the whole punishment, you need to clean the carport. So Christopher got to work cleaning the carport, and his mum, Melissa, said she saw him come in a few times for a drink, but she was on the phone to her boss, so she wasn't really paying much attention to him, and that's her words. She said she last saw Christopher around 5:45pm, so we know all of that kind of happened between 4pm and 5:45pm. And when the Byers got home, so Ryan and John got back home, they sent Ryan up to fetch Christopher. They assumed he was in his room, this was about 6pm, to go out to eat for dinner. Christopher wasn't in his room. So they were like, Ryan, can you go out and find where he is? He must have left. Melissa didn't see him leave, so Ryan went out to find him. Going back in time a bit, we go back to the Hobbs house, and it's now 4:30pm. Terry Hobbs pulls in from work. He worked at the West Memphis Ice Cream Company. Ooh. Something like that. Yeah, as a delivery driver, so not like in the factory. In the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
So he comes home, he pulls into the carport as Pam Hobbs is pulling her work uniform out of the tumble dryer. And he says to her, where's Stevie? I'm pretty sure he called him Froglegs, actually. That was like his nickname for him. And Pam says, oh, he's out riding his bike, but he should be home any minute. Waited till 4:45pm because Terry needed to drop Pam off at work. They needed to leave at 4:45pm. Stevie still wasn't home, so Pam said, on the way to the Catfish Island restaurant, we should stop by the Moore's house, just see if Stevie's there or his bike's there, but they didn't see him ultimately when they went. So Terry dropped Pam off for her shift at 5pm at the Catfish Island restaurant and said to Pam, while you're at work, I'll go round in the car with Amanda and find Stevie.
Yeah.
We go back to Ryan, and obviously Ryan went out to find Christopher, but he couldn't. And at this point, at around the same time, at around 6pm, Dana Moore is now looking for Michael also, because he's not returned home. So she sends Dawn out to go and look for them. So Dawn grabs her bike and also goes out to look for the boys. And Dana had actually seen Michael and Stevie riding their bikes along North 14th Street, and North 14th Street's like cuts through East Barton.
Right.
So I'm guessing she could see them from the road. And later on, she saw them again with Christopher Byers with them. So all three of them were together, we know that. And when Dawn and Ryan were out searching, obviously separately, but they were both out searching, they were asking people, have you seen Christopher? Have you seen Michael? And one witness said they had seen Christopher abandon his skateboard and jump on Stevie's bike to ride tandem with him, and they were heading in the direction of Robin Hood Hills. So Dawn went to look in Robin Hood Hills, and she saw 3 men coming out of the forest, 2 black and 1 white. She said they said something to her about a shot, and she thought they were offering her drugs. So she just kind of minded her own business, because obviously she's 9 years old, probably got a bit spooked out.
Yeah.
Didn't find the boys, and went back home and said to her mum, I can't find them. Ryan also did the same, went back home to John and Melissa and said, I can't find Christopher. John and Melissa at this point didn't know that Christopher was with anyone, thought he was out on his own, so they all jumped in the car to go and find Christopher. And at about 7:30pm, they saw a police car pulled up on the side of the road. So they pulled up beside the police officer and said, look, we can't find our son, can you help us? And they said, give it another half an hour, then call the police department and report him as missing if you've still not found him. So they went home, and just before 8pm, they rung West Memphis Police Department, and they sent out Officer Regina Meeks. Now, when the Byers are giving their statement to Officer Meeks, obviously Dana Moore is a close neighbour to them, so she sees the police, comes out and says, oh, they're all together.
Yeah.
I can't find Michael either, and Stevie's also not been home. The families and Officer Meeks go back out to look, but Officer Meeks got another call pretty quickly, I'm pretty sure within like 15 minutes, so she didn't look very hard.
Yeah.
She got another call to a local Bojangles restaurant, and this is so freaking bizarre, because Officer Meeks attended the restaurant and went through the drive-thru to collect the statement from the manager. And it was to report a disturbance of a black man coming into the restaurant covered in blood.
What?
Didn't know whose blood it was. It could have been that he was bleeding himself. His feet were muddy and his trousers were kind of wet up to the knee, the manager described. He went into the female toilets. The manager followed him in to tell him to leave, and the man had smeared blood everywhere in the toilet, so I don't know what he was doing to get the blood everywhere, or whether it was just where he contacted the walls. I don't know how big this stall is, but it said smeared everywhere. God. So that sort of implies he was smearing it, but I don't know. And he was sat on the toilet with his head in his hands. Freaking weird. So he had left about half an hour before Regina Meeks pulled through the drive-thru.
They didn't keep him there?
No. They asked him to leave. So Officer Meeks pulls through the drive-thru, gets this report, and she's like, okay, cool, I'll go out and look for him. Never went into the bathroom. Officers later did, before the restaurant had to clean up the mess because their bathroom was smeared in someone's blood. So the restaurant were like, we're going to need to clean this up. So officers came in and they did take blood samples, but they were lost and never tested.
And they didn't take any pictures or anything?
I don't think so. Because to this day, this is a mystery. Because while Officer Meeks was out searching for this guy, this weird guy covered in blood and clearly having some sort of distress, she gets another call and goes and attends it. Do you want to know what the call was?
Who else is on shift at this point as well? Jesus.
Exactly, she had a busy night. But the call was criminal mischief of kids throwing eggs. So I'm just going to let this weirdo run loose and just hope that sorts more himself important. Out.
Yeah. We've got missing kids and some guy covered in blood, but I'm going to look into the egg thing. I just want an easy day.
It kind of makes sense why she went through the drive-thru if she was getting this many calls, and it seems like quite weird things as well, like missing kids and a feral man.
I don't know, I feel like that's very concerning. A man covered in blood and you're not even going to go in and have a look.
Maybe I'm offering her too much grace. Because I feel like you would be like, I'll deal with the eggs another time. Write a report. Send someone else out.
Yeah, maybe on another day she could have gone and had a look. But
it doesn't make any sense why she did that. But regardless, she went and dealt with that. And then at 9 p.m, she got another call about Stevie being missing. And this call was placed by Terry Hobbs in the Catfish Island restaurant. So Terry Hobbs said to his wife, he's been out looking all this time, but when he goes in the restaurant, he doesn't acknowledge Pam. He doesn't say anything to her. He just walks to a payphone in the back and calls the police. So Pam's thinking, in hindsight, she thought that was weird, but at the time she thought, oh, Stevie will be out in the car with Amanda, don't know who he's calling, but I'll just take 2 sweets out for the kids. Got to the car and obviously only Amanda's there. And Pam asked her, where's Stevie? And she said, we didn't manage to find Bubba, because I think that was her name for him. At this point, Terry comes out and confirms to Pam, we didn't manage to find Stevie, I've just called the police. Again, Pam thinks it's really weird, because at this point it's 9 p.m, you haven't contacted me to say he's missing, and on this day in West Memphis, the sun set at 7:49 p.m.
So it's been dark for a while.
It's been dark for over an hour, roughly.
Did they have mobiles at that time?
No, but there was a payphone in the restaurant. And he could have, like, the restaurant isn't far away because it's on that map. Yeah. And he drove there anyway. So you feel like if it was getting dark and, like, I know he might just not have wanted to bother her. Yeah. But in hindsight, she just says it was quite weird that he didn't.
Yeah. Did he know that the three of them were together at that point?
I think he knew Michael Moore was with him, and he might have known Christopher Byers was, because obviously Pam assumed that he had gone out to find them.
Yeah, because that maybe might have made him feel better, like they were in not as much danger because they were all together.
Yeah.
Well, so he thought, we will find them, I just don't want to...
We're going to go through this in chronological order, but by the end, you're going to want to take a mental note of some of this stuff, because it is weird. So Anyway, all 3 boys are reported by 9 p.m. and by
Yeah.
9:30 p.m. the town of West Memphis banded together and were out searching for the 3 missing boys. Multiple witnesses have said that they were heading in the area of Robin Hood Hills, so that felt like a good place to start their search. However, it was obviously dark at this point.
Yeah.
It's a swampy area, it's hard to navigate in the dark, so search halted until the following morning.
Yeah.
And I'll just say the amount of eyewitnesses in this case is crazy. Not all of them correlate.
Yeah.
So the ones I'm going off are mainly from family and ones that do correlate to each other, because there are some that just don't make any sense, and if I went into all of them it's going to be a 2-hour episode in itself of just the eyewitnesses.
I guess some of them are probably not
Some of them,
false unintentionally.
Yeah, maybe they saw them a different day, maybe they were different kids, maybe they
you
just wanted
wouldn't think
to
much
insert
of it.
themselves.
Yeah, you'd see kids and just be like, kids went past.
Yeah.
You're not looking at...
So I thought about this because I know that this town, everyone's familiar with everyone, but it's still a fairly populated town. You're not going to know everyone. And I feel like if I was being questioned by the police and they said, for example, what did you see? And I said, I definitely saw Ellen in Tesco on Saturday because I know you, so I would remember that.
Yeah.
But if it's just a random ass person and I see them on the news later, it's not going to remember in my
not
mind.
memorable.
So, yeah.
And I think even if I knew the person, it would have to be something in
sticks
close
out.
proximity as well for me
that
to
relates
remember.
to something of that time and date. Because
Yeah.
if I've just seen them before...
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, the other
Yeah.
day. The other day could mean 3
a
years
month.
ago.
Yeah, literally. So... Anyway, the searches halted until the next day, and the next day police were out searching, the town was out searching, and police were gathering all these witness statements, knocking on doors, and obviously searching in the Robin Hood Hills area. And around midday the town had scoured these woods and they couldn't find anything, so they were about to move on thinking the boys aren't in the woods, until a juvenile probation officer assistant from Crittenden County, Steve Jones, he saw a tennis shoe floating in the bayou. So he radioed in Sergeant Mike Allen, and he came over and waded through the water and unfortunately made the grisly discoveries of the boys' bodies.
Ooh.
The boys were naked, hog-tied, and their injuries are brutal. They had multiple abrasions, contusions, scratches, and there were signs of sexual assault. Christopher Byers was actually castrated.
Jesus Christ.
Very, very sorrow scene. And by 4:10 p.m, the boys had been recovered and the coroner pronounced them dead.
Yeah.
And on one of the documentaries that kind of follows the case, it's called Paradise Lost, and I'll go into this more later, but there's a scene where the parents find out and Pam Hobbs actually faints. It's very heartbreaking. I wanted you to see Terry Hobbs's reaction as well, because his wife has dropped to the floor, sobbing, inconsolable faints. He goes behind a police car and, like, sort of squats down and has a cigarette, and he's very stoic. John Mark Byers is told by Chief Inspector Gary Gitchell, who's now going to be the head of this investigation, and he gets the news from him, and straight away he talks to the media. And you know, in cases, police like to hold some cards close to their chest because they need to have something that if someone says, they know it's only them who knows it. But John Mark Byers was just out letting it loose, letting the condition of the bodies known. And obviously once the media hears that, even when the police were questioned about it, the media is kind of like already reporting on what John Mark Byers has said, so the whole town knew how brutal this was, and people were angry. Like, this would have been so horrific if the boys had just accidentally fallen in the bayou and drowned, but they, like, the level of brutality was awful. And you've got to think of the time of year this was as well. So this is May 6th. The summer holidays are coming up.
Yeah.
Parents want to let their kids out.
Yeah.
And they don't now feel safe doing so because they've got this maniac on the loose.
Do you know what, though? My initial thoughts for something like that would be, it has to be a group of people, surely, to be able to do all of that. But also, that sounds like a very young, not very young person, but like teenage, early 20s. That sounds experimental. That just sounds experimental, like your first serial killer move, and you've just done all of the things. The most horrific things that you've probably been thinking about forever and ever, and you've finally just gone and done all of those things.
Yeah. So we'll go into both of those things about being multiple perpetrators or one, and sort of what type of person this would be and what type of killing this was. Now, when Steve Jones finds the tennis shoe and the boys are recovered, he's obviously there watching. And it's quite weird because it's actually reported that Sergeant Mike Allen found the tennis shoe, but it's definitely Steve Jones that did. But when the bodies were being pulled out of the water, obviously it's a horrific scene, Steve Jones is reported as saying, "It looks like Damien finally killed someone."
Sorry?
So
what a throwaway little comment. What a weird thing to say.
Okay. So
do you know, that just instantly makes me annoyed. Like, it's like that, like that's that classic little town where there's one kid that's a bit troubled and gets blamed for everything, and that's a very serious thing.
Literally just that, you told the story.
That's a very serious thing to be like, well,
looks like he finally did it.
We all knew it.
As I said, around this time, there was a lot of rumblings of satanic cults. And in West Memphis Juvenile Probation Services, that was in Crittenden County, that Steve Jones worked for, he had a supervisor called Jerry Driver. And these two men really believed there was a satanic cult going on in West Memphis. They went so hard on it, and they believed it was led by a local teenager who was 18 at the time of the murders. Damien Echols was their cult leader.
Did this Damien have black painted nails?
I don't think he did.
Oh.
He had quite a striking appearance.
Did you put a picture of him on there?
Yeah, he's on there, yeah. And there's also pictures of the parents,
yeah,
and
so that's
there's
Terry
a picture
Hobbs
of the Jerry Driver as well. And there's also a picture of Gary Gitchell, the head investigator, who looks very much like Dr. Phil or the character Moses in the series Come Fly With Me by David Walliams and Matt Lucas. And I'll put a picture of all three of the men up so you can see how similar he looks like to these people.
Oh, there's Damien. Oh, he doesn't even look...
Yeah, Damien was actually under the juvenile probation services, being seen by Steve Jones and Jerry Driver, so he knew both of the men. And look, Damien was a troubled guy.
Yeah, but there's one thing being troubled, and there's quite another to do those horrific things.
Yeah. So Damien was born to his parents Michelle and Joe Hutchinson, and Michelle was very young when her and Joe got married. She was 15.
Wow.
Which is quite young.
Is that even legal?
Maybe in the 90s in Arkansas.
Jesus.
So she was very young and Damien was born, and when his little sister Michelle came along, Pam couldn't really cope with motherhood. She was very overwhelmed. She needed help. So they moved in with his grandmother.
Okay.
And Damien would say they would move about a lot, and they were poor. A lot of people in West Memphis actually lived below the poverty line, so it's not a well-off community. He said they would often live in squalid conditions, and it wasn't a happy home life, and he showed signs of emotional instability from a very young age. He would headbutt walls and the floor when he was upset, and in his teenage years he would have bouts of just crying for no reason and then hyperactivity. One thing he really liked was horror films, and he said this dates back to when his mum and his dad and sister were all together. They would sometimes put on a horror movie and cuddle up on the sofa together, so he had really fond memories of that. And when he was in the hyperactive stages of his moods, he would walk to the West Memphis Library, because there's nothing else to do in that town, and read Stephen King and the likes of that. So he enjoyed that. He enjoyed rock music. He had long hair but shaved on one side that was jet black. He wore band t-shirts, and he says openly, I'm an outcast, I'm weird, I don't like people.
Fair
enough. And
relate.
He says, I am openly weird, and sometimes I would use it as a defense mechanism, because I don't want people to approach me. I don't want people to come up to me, so I use my weirdness as a defense mechanism.
Yeah, I'd rather people be scared of me.
Yeah.
Than come talk to me. Fair.
He was actually born Michael Wayne Hutchinson, and he changed his name to Damien.
Okay.
And we'll go into that later, I think, but it's just important to note. But I will go into why he changed his name later, because I think it relates better later on in the story. So I will come back to that. His mum and dad split up, and he has his new stepfather, Jack Echols. So that's when his name changed to Damien Echols. He didn't really like his stepfather. He actually described him as a hateful bastard. So he described just feeling miserable a lot.
Yeah.
He didn't have a happy life. He didn't really have many friends. And one day, I believe he was 16 at this time, he was in study hall looking up sexual vocabulary in the dictionary. And I imagine it's like when you write boobs on a calculator.
Yeah, we all did it, yeah.
Like, sexual words
to page 21. Yeah.
Sexual words are just funny to kids, or like drawing like the little penises. Like, people do it. So he was doing that, and when he got bored, he looked up and he saw this skinny boy with a mullet wearing a Metallica t-shirt with a bag full of rock cassette tapes, and his name is Jason Baldwin. Now, he was younger than Damien by 2 years, so maybe at the point they met they were 14, and by the time of the murders he was 16. And the boys became close through their love of rock music. They would listen, one headphone in each, in study hall and on the bus. And Jason lived in Lakeshore Estates trailer park with his single mother and siblings, and his mum had mental health issues and worked nights. So Jason would have to look after his younger siblings a lot, but he says he never minded or resented his mother for this, because his mother worked hard and she had issues. And Jason was generally described as a good kid all round. Damien moved to the same trailer park as them, and the pair became thick as thieves. They would have sleepovers every weekend, and they described themselves as brothers, so they had a really close bond. They were really tight. Jason had got in trouble with the police before, so he was also under the juvenile probation service with Jerry Driver and Steve Jones. And he got in trouble for breaking into an abandoned building. So just being a kid, and causing mischief. Yeah. I don't think he needed to be under probation services for that, but I think,
he
honestly,
needs reforming.
Maybe people in West Memphis, the police didn't have much to do. Jason gets in trouble with that, and I'm just going to run through why Damien's under the juvenile probation services, which is quite a story. So, when Damien was 16, he met someone who he fell in love with called Deanna.
Yeah.
And her parents were very strict, very religious.
Okay, and this is Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, she was actually a Wiccan.
Okay.
And she got Damien interested in Wicca. And obviously there's a lot of misconceptions around the Wiccan religion. Mm-hmm. They believe it's related to satanic cults, but
it's not.
Actually it's not. It's related to having the power to change the world around you, and also admiring Mother Nature.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite a beautiful religion. Yeah. And Damien identified with it. He took it on with her. Her parents found out they were having sex and forbid them to date. They snuck around for a couple of months, but ultimately the pair split. Deanna broke it off, broke Damien's heart. He actually got into a fight with a boy in school because he thought they were seeing each other, or he saw them together, and he scratched his face, and he later admitted, I was trying to scratch his eyes out. So he got suspended from school for this.
Yeah.
But this wasn't why he was under the juvenile probation services. So Damien actually, in this kind of period where Deanna broke it off with him, he started seeing this girl Dominique Tier from the trailer park,
Right.
and she was kind of in their crew. He said he had a lot of fun with Dominique, but she wasn't Deanna. He was in love with Deanna. She was his first love, so he really missed her, and the pair actually reconciled in secret, planned to run away together. Teenagers. I'm pretty sure he was 17 at this time, but probably just turned 17.
Yeah.
And also at this time, he had moved on to high school. Jason Baldwin is younger than him, so he didn't move up with him. And a lot of people from the high school came from better backgrounds than Damien. So his sense of isolation just grew. He got suspended for the fight. And he said at this point, his behaviour got a lot worse. He was lashing out, most likely. So anyway, they planned to run away together.
Yeah.
And neither of them have a car, a licence. So they set off on foot.
Oh my God.
The pair get tired and break into an abandoned trailer. Do what teenagers do.
Yeah.
Have a reconciliation. The police are already out looking for the pair because Deanna's parents are like, Deanna didn't come home from school. So the police find the pair and they arrest Damien, put him in the back of the police car and take him to Crittenden County where he first met Jerry Driver. Now, whilst in the back of the police car, he saw Deanna's dad, who had picked her up, yelling at her. And he said to the police officers in the car, if he hurts her, I'll kill him.
Yep.
He goes to Crittenden County and he's charged with burglary and sexual misconduct. Now, burglary, I believe, I'm assuming it's the same in Arkansas, because in some states, burglary doesn't mean you take anything.
Right.
It means you break into someone's home, trespass with the intention to commit a felony crime. And I'm guessing the sexual misconduct is because he's 17 and Deanna's 15.
Yeah.
So that's a felony. And then the trespassing makes it burglary. So it sounds a lot... I think it sounds a lot worse than it is.
Yeah.
I think that is maybe not normal teenager behaviour to run away with your love and break into a trailer. I don't see it as a major red flag.
No, it's just the way they are at that age, I feel like.
Literally.
They probably think, like, this is true love, I'm never going to get this again. Everyone's against us.
The emotions are...
Yeah, your
firing.
brain's not fully developed. You don't know.
Yeah. So whilst in the Crittenden County jail, he meets Jerry Driver for the first time, and he said Driver would question him on his music taste, his likes with reading, like what do you like to read, and obviously he would say Stephen King and all that, and he would also question him about the occult. So that was his kind of first dealings with Driver, and he actually had a psychiatric evaluation in Crittenden County Jail, and it was found that him and Deanna had a suicide pact. Do I think they were actually going to do it?
No.
Literally. So he gets put in a psychiatric hospital, and there was a rumour from Jerry Driver that has no weight, and Damien has firmly denied this. Damien admitted there was a suicide pact. I'm sure he even reflects on that and is just like...
That was so stupid.
I was so silly, young in love.
One of those things you look back on and you're like, oh my God. Jesus.
But Jerry Driver started the rumour that him and Deanna were trying to get pregnant so they could sacrifice their baby.
What the hell, Jerry?
Damien's firmly denied this, and no one else can corroborate this, so...
Who's the real deviant here?
I don't think it's true. So, anyway, he's in the hospital. I'll go into a little bit more about why rumours started swelling about Damien, but after the murders...
Was it Jerry?
It was. So,
I can't believe a grown man would start rumours like that.
Honestly, it just gets worse as you go on.
Has he got a burn book?
He probably does. Like, this is the nastiest. It's just Damien in there cutting out pictures of him. So he's in the psychiatric hospital, and like I said, a lot of rumours after the murders start swirling about Damien, like mutilating animals and all of that. I'll go into that a bit later on. But this account, I think it's probably true. someone was in the psychiatric hospital with Damien, and he had said about this before the murders and before all the rumours started swirling. So I think that alone gives it more weight.
Yeah.
He had cut his arm, and Damien apparently grabbed his arm and licked the blood from the wound. That's weird.
No, Damien.
Damien. That's fucking weird.
That's a bit weird. That's not just a little act of rebellion. That's just, that's a little bit more than that.
But then I think he is very out there trying to be weird, trying to find himself. He's in his, it's not a phase.
Yeah.
Phase.
Yeah.
I had it's not a phase, mum phase, and I came out normal. I didn't do that, but I probably did some weird shit.
Yeah. That's uncommon.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a red flag,
odd,
but so far, I think that's the thing that screams to me. This guy probably just needs a lot of support. He's had a bad background, and he might be weird.
Or has he got to the point where he's like, I'm just going to fully lean into it now?
I'm
just going to do it.
Rumours. So once Damien was released from hospital, he went to Oregon to live with his dad. And whilst in Oregon, he tried to contact Deanna. Now, he's on probation in Arkansas. He's not on probation in Oregon. And I'm guessing part of his probation terms this burglary and sexual misconduct, which, again, I just feel like that's such a harsh label to put on it when I know he was 17 and she was 15, but he had just turned 17.
I think they just didn't like him. And I don't know whether
I think they threw
the parents of
Deanna
they were
probably
helped on that.
I think they didn't let her watch MTV, so... When I say they were strict, they were strict.
Did they know? Were they Christian or were they also Wiccan?
So they were Christian, and I'm guessing
she
Deanna
kept
might
that
have
under wraps,
hid it
probably.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
but if you think about it, Damien's mum got married at 15.
Yeah, so to him,
and he said like any teenage boy. He didn't say like any teenage boy, but he said his sexual appetite grew when he was a teenager, which I think is like any teenage boy. It's like most teenagers.
Just in general,
So it's not like a huge red flag, so I just feel like they really threw the book at him. But
that's not predatory, is it?
He contacted Deanna, which obviously went against his probation probably, and Jerry Driver took it upon himself to ring Oregon services to be like, you need to watch out for this one. He's dangerous. He's in a cult. He's satanic.
My God.
And parts of this, I'm going to slip into a very bad Southern American accent, so I do apologise in advance, because when I hear the words that they've said on documentaries, I hear it in the accent, so I want to say it. So it might slip into it at some points. It didn't then, but it might do. I just need to warn, because it could do. So anyway, he contacted Oregon services, and Oregon services were a bit like, okay,
cool,
don't really care.
Thanks, Jera.
So
Jerry.
Nothing really came from that. But later on, Damien had quite a big fight with his father, and he told his father, I'll kill you. So he was placed back into a psychiatric hospital, but the stay was quite short. It was only 2 days, and they found he was quite depressed. But in all of his psychiatric stays, the doctors note he's very eloquent with his words. He didn't get good grades in high school, but he had quite a high level of writing.
Yeah.
But I don't think he just didn't conform to school.
Didn't apply himself at
school. That's what was kind of noted. He was a bit depressed, which Damien agreed with. He was like, I miss my girlfriend Deanna, and I miss my friend Jason.
Yeah.
So after he got out of the Oregon Psychiatric Hospital, he was like, I'm going to hightail it back to West Memphis to live with my dad Joe Hutchinson in the Lakeshore Estates trailer park with my friends.
Yeah.
So the Oregon services then thought, we need to give Jerry Driver a heads up that he's coming back. And it was decided that Damien would have weekly meetings with Jerry until he was 18.
I bet he loved that.
Honestly, the meetings are batshit crazy. So he gets on a bus and goes back to West Memphis, despite Jerry Driver protesting to the Oregon services that he doesn't want this kid back because it's going to break his probation. And I just thought, so the terms of his probation is he can't come into Arkansas because he broke into a trailer with his ex-girlfriend and had sex with her?
Yes. Surely he's a danger to society.
But surely that's not actually in his probation.
No,
Jerry Driver
not.
Just didn't want him back. I also think it's really weird that Jerry Driver would try and make
He's
Damien's
going so
life
hard for it.
hell in Oregon by being like, this guy's a bad seed. Damien hopped on a bus back to West Memphis and spent a few days hanging out with his best friend Jason and his sort of, I want to call her a fling, but I don't know if it was a fling, but his friend Dominique, who he was also kind of seeing, and he spent a couple of days with them hanging out, and he got a knock on the door from Mr. Driver.
Figures.
And he took him back to Crittenden County.
Why?
And arrested him again.
For what?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And this is kind of where the weekly meetings were set up. And in these weekly meetings, Damien said they just got weirder and weirder. Like, he would go in and Jerry Driver would give him a text in Latin and make him read it.
What?
What does that prove?
That he can speak in tongues.
But you're just reading the words you gave me. And apparently he would show him, like, rings or, like, weird objects and be like, what's the significance of this? And I think Damien started trolling in them a little bit.
Yeah.
And, like, just, like, sort of made shit up just to have a little laugh with it, because he had to endure this for quite some time until he was at weekly meetings. That's 52 times a year.
Jeez. With Jerry.
Yeah. And also, obviously, Jerry knows that Jason Baldwin is his associate. He knows he's his best friend. He's also under probation services. So Jerry thinks Jason's also in a cult. And people would actually come up to Jason and be like, are you in a cult with Damien? And he'd be like, no, where did you hear that? And they'd say, oh, Jerry Driver told us. And I'm not sure if these kids were under probation services, but apparently Jerry Driver, before the murders even occurred, was telling people around town, disassociate from Damien because he's going down.
Unless you want to be in a cult, don't speak to that boy.
Literally. So it's just bizarre. His being his bonnet about this.
Jerry driving his own narrative.
Yeah. So he actually turned 18 and obviously was so happy that he wouldn't have
do his
to
own shit.
Go to these weekly meetings and read in Latin. How it also, juvenile probation services are there to help people and correct them. How is that helping anyone? I can't imagine whoever supervised Jerry Driver being like, so
Clearly
what have
no
you
one
done
did.
with Damien? And he's like, oh, I bring him in once a week to read to me in Latin. And they're like, okay, what's the plan?
What's your goal here? He's like, I bet you want to sacrifice me right now, don't you, Damien?
Oh, it's just so bizarre. So back to the murders, we start to see that Damien was on the radar from day dot, because Steve Jones was like, look, Damien finally killed someone.
Oh my god.
So there was a Lieutenant Sudbury who was a narcotics officer in West Memphis, and he was having a talk with Jerry Driver the day after the murders. And I get that if you were kind of, they're not in the same team,
Yeah.
but they might have worked in the same building or knew each other.
Yeah.
This murder's occurred, it's horrendous, people are going to talk, have unofficial chats of what you might have think of went on. So they had a chat and said, this murders, it's got cult overtones. And Jerry Driver was like, I know just the guy. Because Lieutenant Sudbury was like, do you know anyone who could be involved? And Jerry Driver was like, yeah. I know one
who
person who could do this. Lieutenant Sudbury, he was already being investigated by some higher up power, because in the narcotics team, he would take guns, drugs and money out of evidence to do what, I don't know what he did with them. And it was kind of just like a thing in West Memphis where all the narcotics team would do it. So he was like, oh yeah, we all do it. And no action was ever taken. So we know that Lieutenant Sudbury is already a bit corrupt. I'm just going to put it out there. No action was taken, but
Great
allegedly,
Christmas
in my
parties.
opinion, he was a bit corrupt. So the two have this conversation, and instead of going to Gary Gitchell, Dr. Phil, and saying, do you think this could be satanic? I know that you're on the homicide, so we should probably leave it to you guys, but do you think it could be satanic? And if it is, you need to look into this person. They took it upon themselves, and it's not documented anywhere that Gary Gitchell signed off on this, or, you know, that he was even discussed about this meeting. Jerry Driver and Lieutenant Sudbury, so a juvenile probation officer, when Damien's even 18 now, so he should have nothing to do with him, and a narcotics officer go and meet with Damien on this day after the murders. And they start talking to Damien about the usual bollocks, like, oh, what music are you into, what film, and just like softening him up. And then at the end of the consultation, and we know that this is what was said, not from Sudbury or Driver, because there's not many notes on this meeting.
Convenient.
They kind of noted that Damien had tattoos, he was wearing black, and he had a couple of pairs of muddy shoes in his house.
Case closed.
But then you need a homicide detective to take those things if you think they're evidence. You can't just note them down and walk away. So this whole thing just reeks of utter incompetence or corruption. So yeah, they start questioning him about the usual things, and then at the very end, this is from Damien's reporting, they go, do you know of any plans to sacrifice a child at all?
Is there any events coming up? Just asking for
Why would Damien say yes to that?
And what's the point in wasting the air to ask such a ridiculous question? Oh yeah, are you part of the Facebook group?
It just doesn't make any sense. They actually took a Polaroid picture of Damien at this meeting as well, and it's documented that they did take this Polaroid of him, but then in court they deny taking the Polaroid of him, and other people in town were like, soon after the murders, Jerry Driver would show us the Polaroid of Damien.
It's literally in his wallet.
Yeah, you've got to think, like, people know about the murders, they know how brutal it was, they are already thinking it's cult-like, because that had spread around the community. Jerry Driver is out here spreading around that Damien's in a cult, this is what he looks like, did you see anything? So then this is where all the rumours start popping up, like, oh yeah, I saw that guy skin a dog.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I've seen he has witches meetings, and all this just really bizarre shit that no one said before this happened, apart from Jerry Driver, because he's been on that shit from day one.
They're like, so, Jerry, who drew the devil horns and tail on Damien's picture?
Imagine. But you've got to think, they've tainted the whole of Arkansas now.
They've completely ruined this investigation.
Are going to unofficially know Damien's being looked at as a suspect.
Yeah.
And at some point, Gary Gitchell gets on the bandwagon of satanic cults. He has a press conference and he says, we're looking into all avenues and cult activity is one of them. But it seems that the cult narrative kind of overshadowed everything else, because then it started that Damien was having like daily or almost daily visits from the police questioning him about things, and he would just be like, I don't know anything that's happened.
Leave me alone.
And they would ask him, like, why do you think someone would do this? And Damien would say, well, probably because they enjoyed it. And then they'd be like, oh, so you know that because it was you.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, like, and he was like, well, no, I said that because I thought they wanted an opinion. Yeah. I don't know why they're consulting with him, why he thinks they're consulting with him, but he just...
Yeah, but you just wouldn't... Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know.
And he was like, well, obviously they enjoy it if they did it. You wouldn't do it if you didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
This person's sick. You're not going to be there crying and doing this and being like, oh, I'm being forced into you. Like, obvious. It's just so obvious.
I was really hoping that you were going to say that Gary was going to be like the voice of reason and the one that might be like, guys, maybe we should just stop this. This is silliness.
Gary Gitchell stands 10 toes down, because you know Gary Gitchell is under so much pressure because he's at the head of the investigation and all of West Memphis is like, you need to catch this maniac before it's our children next.
Yeah.
We've got a cult going on and we didn't even know about it.
They're like group town meeting things. I can see it.
Because I'm pretty sure Melissa Byers, she had an interview with the media and she was like, I didn't even know there was a cult in West Memphis until my child was sacrificed.
Oh my God.
So it's not like a well-known thing that these things were happening that everyone started reporting on, saying, oh my God, West Memphis says it's literally Salem witch trials.
Poor Damien.
Yes. So, The police didn't have enough to arrest Damien, and because there was 3 children, they thought naturally there would be 3 suspects. Now, there was on the hog tying a couple of different knot shoes, so that would indicate separate perpetrators, but I think they were 8-year-old boys. There could be ways of controlling them. They're kids, and sometimes in these cases where there are multiple kids, sometimes they don't want to leave their friend.
And I guess if I suppose, thinking about it, if you say, if you do anything, I'm going to hurt, like, pick one child and be like, I'm going to hurt him, and then they won't, and then you control that one, and then you go do the others.
They could have had a weapon.
Yeah.
You know, there are ways you could subdue them with just being weapons. One.
Yeah.
But obviously the police thought it was 3 people, so they've already got Damien and Jason. Who would the third suspect be? And this is where Jesse MissKelley Jr. comes into the picture. And Jesse MissKelley Jr. also lived in Lakeshore Estate Trailer Park. And he would sometimes hang out with Damien and Jason, but I don't think he was even like a really close friend of them. I think he hung out with them. He lived in the same trailer park. Jesse MissKelley Jr. lived with his dad in the trailer park. The mum left the family quite early on, and the family had a history of substance misuse. And Jesse himself admitted at 13 he used to sniff gasoline.
Wow.
And even up until this point, so he was 17 when the murders occurred, he would use cannabis and alcohol regularly. He had a low mental age. He was described as having a mental age of a 6 to 8 year old.
Wow, okay.
And his IQ was 72.
Yeah.
So quite low. And he had been in trouble before with the police for stealing a band flag. So this is what I mean by West Memphis just seems to go hard on these kids for not really...
Nothing.
Yeah, literally nothing. He got brought into the picture because he babysat for this woman called Vicky Hutchinson. And she was in the police station one day on an unrelated issue of like credit card fraud, answering questions, and she went in with her 8-year-old son Aaron Hutchinson, and Aaron Hutchinson was friends with the 3 victims. And the police officer interviewing them about this credit card fraud, he found out that Aaron was friends with the 3 victims, so he thought, I'll just start questioning them about it and see if I can find anything out.
Right.
So he started questioning them both, and Aaron has made multiple interviews to the police, which I'll go into, but we're going to talk about Vicky first. So Vicky says the police asked her, because they knew she knew Jesse MissKelley through babysitting, and apparently Jesse used to stay over at her house, and I don't know how old she is, but she's got an 8-year-old son, so she's definitely way older than 17, and she looks old. I'll put a picture up. Not saying she looks like mega old, but way older than a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was just easier for him to stay over, but...
Maybe she'd be out so late that he just stayed there.
I don't know if there was like an inappropriate relationship going on between the 2 of them, honestly. It's just weird. But they knew that she knew Jesse, and they knew that Jesse knew Damien. So the police were like, can you get Jesse to introduce you to Damien and see what you can find out for us? And that's what the police say, all they said to Vicky Hutchinson. So she goes off and does her own investigation and asks Jesse if she could introduce her to Damien. And Jesse, on the 19th of May, agrees. And this is where the dominoes really start to fall in this case, because Vicky's account is Jesse went with her to meet Damien, and Damien took her into the Devil's Den area, and there was a group of about 10 young people all painted in black, and they were touching each other. So she basically made out like there was some sort of witch occult orgy going on in the woods.
Yeah.
And she was like, I really didn't like it, I was scared, so I asked Damien to drive me home. We know Damien doesn't drive.
No,
so
yeah, okay.
First red flag. She takes a polygraph and she actually passes, and polygraph's going to be a big bone of contention in this case, and personally I don't like polygraphs anyway. I think watching Jeremy Kyle made me have a really skewed view of how effective they are, because they used to say it was like 97% accurate. That is not true. They are more of an interrogation tool than... They're not even admissible in court.
No, I've always been interested to know, like, to take one myself.
Yeah.
Because I obviously have anxiety and stuff, and I would just be really intrigued to see if it said that I'd failed something, because I was so anxious I was going to fail something that I know is true.
Well, we know that a lot of innocent people have taken polygraphs and failed, and later it's been found out to be someone completely different, but they failed the polygraph probably because they're anxious.
Yeah.
And we know also there's been a lot of criminals who have done the crime and there's other evidence against them, but they've passed a polygraph.
Yeah, because they say it's like, anxiety doesn't factor into it, but it does, because it measures perspiration and stuff like that, and I would sweat so much. Yeah,
there's actually ways you can trick it as well. You can train your breathing, so it depends how cool, calm and collected you are.
And I think alcohol, like, you're not meant to have alcohol.
Yeah, so you can also trick it into making it undetermined.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can trick it into doing that. So I just think they're completely unreliable, but I'm going to bring them in because it is a fact in the case. She passed a polygraph about this event. I always think if I was being questioned for a crime that I didn't do, I wouldn't take a polygraph because I know how dodgy they are. But then you're in the catch-22 of you look guilty if you don't take one.
Yeah.
So it is just, I think they shouldn't be used even as an interrogation tool, because it kind of tars you. Even though they're admissible in court, they, it just tars you, I think. So the police then use Vicky's statements as enough evidence to bring Jesse in for questioning, and we know Jesse's got a low IQ. He wasn't given a lawyer, he wasn't even brought in with like a trusted adult or parent. He was 17, and he was interviewed by Detective Gary Gitchell, or Inspector Gary Gitchell, and Detective Brian Ridge, but his name's spelled Brynn. So his name's spelled Bryn, but it's Brian.
Is that illegal for them to interview? Surely he's still a minor, right? Surely that's actually illegal. I don't know if it's illegal,
but it's not right. And because he had mental difficulties that were known anyway, basically the police were like, well, we read him his rights and he understood it all. So, but then other people are saying, I think at trial the defence really tried to play up the mental difficulties, and the prosecution said there was none, so it's probably a midway, but I would say he does have something. People describe him as such, so I think there is something in there.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he was really the weak link. They didn't have enough to arrest Damien or Jason, and they thought, well, Jesse's the missing link, let's get him in and see what we can do. And the other dodgy thing they did, they interrogated this boy for hours, and we only have an hour recording, or it's so little, and the recording is of him confessing.
Convenient.
But we have at least 5 hours we don't have. So we don't know what was said, we don't know
what they did,
what information they gave him. We do know that they gave him a polygraph that he passed, but they told him he failed.
What?
And then we also know they were basically like, there's a $35,000 reward that is offered if information leads to an arrest.
Oh, and he wanted that money.
He thought he was going to get that money. And he kept telling the police over and over again, I wasn't there, I didn't do anything, I have no idea about these murders. And the police were basically like, but you do. And just kept asking him.
Yeah.
So eventually he says, I was just so tired, I just wanted to go home, and they wouldn't, I couldn't go until I basically gave them what they wanted. So I thought if I just confessed, and he did play down his part. He said Damien and Jason were the ones who basically did the murder, but he chased down one of the boys and brought them back when they tried to escape. So he did play down his own part, but he basically thought he was going to get to go home after that because he's given them what they want. So, no understanding. So they were all arrested on June the 3rd. And the problem with his confession is that there was a lot of holes in it. So he originally had told the police the murders occurred at midday, but people saw the boys after that alive and well, and they were in school. So the murders didn't occur at midday, so they would be like, oh, was it dark? And they would kind of lead him to the correct answer. He also said the boys were tied up with rope when it was shoelaces.
Right.
Those are some of the discrepancies, but we also don't know what they told him in that 5 hours. They could have told him all of this stuff and he was just regurgitating it back to them because he thought, this is going to get me to go home.
Yeah.
And this is what they want to hear. We don't know what he heard in the media, what he knew about it, so it's all just a bit messed up. And I think Jesse did have a mild connection to the 3 victims because obviously he knew Aaron from babysitting and Aaron was their friend. And I'll just touch on Aaron's interviews with the police quickly because obviously he's Vicky Hutchinson's son. He's friends with the 3 victims. His 3 friends have just been brutally attacked and murdered.
Yeah.
He was meant to go out with them that day, but his mum said no. And Aaron said he saw Michael Moore get into the car with a black man with yellow teeth after school, who Michael had said, my mother has sent him to pick me up from school. But people saw him after that, and there's no other reports of this. And this was never brought up by the police again. And Aaron's accounts, as he gets interviewed more and more by police, he's interviewed like 5 times, and there's interview tapes, because he wasn't a suspect, obviously. But you can tell he's uncomfortable, and he's literally, the story gets so bizarre that he's hiding in a tree. He snuck out after his mum said no, rode his bike down to meet the boys. He said originally he didn't even see Stevie there, and then it was like Stevie was magically then brought back in another one of his interviews, and he was hiding up in a tree watching the murders.
Oh.
Just gets so bizarre,
Yeah.
and his details weren't correct, but the police were like, yeah.
This kid knows.
It is fine.
And in a town that small, you're going to be connected to them in some way, like a friend of a friend,
Yeah.
or someone's sister's
Gonna lead
kid,
back
or
to
yeah,
them.
yeah.
And Aaron also told the police him, Michael and Christopher would go to the Robin Hood Hills area, and they sometimes saw a group of 5 men touching each other like men and ladies do, singing songs to the devil and dancing around a fire. And if you look at Vicky Hutchinson's report,
Yeah,
what
what
was
she
she
said.
telling him?
Yeah.
What was the media reporting?
Yeah.
I just think this is a child's mind trying to deal with such a horrible thing. He's 8 years old.
Yeah.
And he was interviewed by Gary Gitchell. He should have been interviewed by a special child person, like a child psychologist who had training in how to talk to a child.
Yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunately, Aaron gave those statements, and like I said, 3 were arrested on June the 3rd. And on June the 4th, Gary Gitchell gives a press conference. He's asked by one of the media, how confident are you out of 10 that you've got the right people? And before they can even really finish their sentence, he says an 11. And he's sat there so smug, like, we solved the case. So then we move through to the trials, and Jesse MissKelley Jr.'s trial was separate from Damien and Jason's, who were tried together. And Jesse's took place in January 1994, and Damien and Jason's took place in February 1994.
Okay.
So Jesse went first. Jesse had a good alibi.
Very solid alibi.
There were so many people that corroborated he was at a wrestling match.
Oh my god.
That was all disregarded because he had confessed. After he was arrested, he did immediately recant the confession.
Yeah.
However, he does confess a few more times. But it will be things like his lawyer even said to him, Jesse, don't make comment at this time. And he'll just
say something.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know if he fully understood. He was being transferred to the courthouse from the jail at one point, and he told a police officer a confession in the car, but we have no record of that. And it was actually known that the police were kind of saying, we'll let you have visits with your girlfriend if you help us get Damien and Jason. So he could have been saying it because of that. And there's been quite a few times where people who have been in prison with him over the years have said that he confessed to them, but I don't know if they're just saying, what are you in for?
Yeah.
And he just says it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't understand. And actually, I was thinking about this. If all of this happened to me, even if you don't have the mental age of Jesse MissKelley, if I'm Damien Echols, I'm going to start gaslighting myself and be like, maybe I did do it.
Have I got like a black spot in my memory?
Yeah, everyone's saying I did it and they've got all this supposed evidence against me. Maybe I did it.
Yeah.
You would go a bit crazy, I think.
And probably just get tired of going round and around and being like,
Yes.
there's no point in keep saying this anymore because no one
Yeah.
believes me. I'm done.
Yeah. So at trial, the confession is brought up and Jesse obviously argues it's not true. the police, and he gives the statement, "The police questioned me for hours and I just wanted to go home." The defence get a specialist in false confessions, and you've got to think, in this time in the 90s, false confessions weren't a known thing.
Yeah.
But now we know today that people do falsely confess. It is a thing, especially with someone with a low mental age. They could be more vulnerable for it. So the defence specialist was pointing all these holes in the confession, was pointing the tactics of the police of leading him.
And his alibi. He has an alibi.
Yeah. And then the prosecution were like, this is to the specialist. They were like, your going rate for a consultation is $150. Then if you go to court, it's $300 an hour. So you're not going to say that it's not false, are you? Because then you don't get to go to court.
What?
Yeah, so that's
so basically
what they
you're
had
a
to say to
scam
her.
artist, is what you're openly saying.
That was the argument. And ultimately, Jesse MissKelley Jr. is sentenced to life in prison.
Life.
So then we move on to Damien and Jason's trial in February. And like I said, they were tried together, and there's a picture on the document of them in court, and you can just see how young they look. During the time between them getting arrested and the trials, there was a bit of an issue with a knife. Obviously, they believed a knife was involved in the castration of Christopher Byers, and Jason had told John Fogelman, who was the prosecutor for these cases, "I used to have a knife, but I threw it in the river before the murders even occurred." So John Fogelman went out with divers, basically called the media and was like, "Come quick, I'm going to make a discovery." Right. After 30 minutes of diving, they retrieved the knife.
Magically.
And John Fogelman was asked, "How did you know the knife was there?" And he was like, "I just had a hunch." And obviously Jason's like, "No, I told you, I threw it in the lake before the murders." And there was witnesses to him throwing it in the lake before the murders. But this knife was brought into trial. Now, I'm going to quickly go over some of the boys' injuries in a bit more in depth, because Christopher Byers seems to have got it the worst. He had no defensive wounds. He didn't have bruises around the hog ties, and he didn't have water in his lungs, where Stevie and Michael had all of those things.
So he was last.
He was first.
Would he have more bruising, though? If he was tied for longest?
No, not if you're dead by the time you're tied. That's basically what it means. And by the time he entered the water, he was already dead, where Stevie and Michael
I see
were.
What you're saying. Okay.
And obviously the castration issue of Christopher Byers. So he appears to have got it the worst. It's just really awful. Like, the injuries are horrific, and there's crime scene pictures that they painstakingly go over in trial. And I'm going to go into the Paradise Lost documentary series now. And the first Paradise Lost documentary series is called Paradise Lost: The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills. And it's the original trial of all three boys, and you get to go in the courtroom with them. And this aired in 1996, so 2 years after the trials, and it caused quite a stir, so we'll come back to that in a second. But you can see John Fogelman really tried to get the emotion going at Damien and Jason's trial, because Jesse refused to testify. So they couldn't use his confession in court. So without their confession, John Fogelman said to the parents, "Look, we've got Jesse, we might have to offer him a reduction on his sentence if he will testify, because there's only a 50-50 chance otherwise with the evidence we've got." That shows me they're not an 11 out of 10 confident.
No, because you'd have beyond doubt.
Yeah, without the
Beyond
confession,
reasonable
50-50
doubt.
is weak.
Yeah.
So he says that to the parents, and it's all caught on this documentary, so we know what happens. So he really tried to play on the emotions of the jury at trial. He painstakingly went through each of these autopsy photos, crime scene pictures. He had the knife, and there was like scratches on the boys, and this knife was serrated, as you saw.
Yeah.
And he was like, basically, if you scrape the knife across the skin, that's what would make them. Why is someone scraping the knife across the skin? I've not really seen that in many
And
cases.
did they actually replicate that, or?
So he brought a grapefruit into the trial and did it on a grapefruit, but obviously you shouldn't
That's
really
not the same.
replicate that into the same as human skin. They also had quite a few witnesses. They had 2 girls that had supposedly overheard Damien saying he killed 3, and if he gets away with it, he'll kill 3 more. Again,
What the hell?
like, just, we can't really put weight for that. We had Vicky Hutchinson. We had a expert in cults He basically just sat there and said, yeah, if you like rock music, this is a sign you're in a cult. If you wear black, you're a sign you're in a cult. And I actually asked AI what are the signs of a cult killing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I kind of know, but I wanted to just get a brief overview, because I thought if I went down this rabbit hole, I'm going to talk about what makes a cult killing for an hour. So basically, AI said there's sometimes ritualistic components. We know the murders occurred on a full moon.
Okay.
That is literally the only ritualistic thing. They said it's usually like a vulnerable group of people, like children, so that's another thing. And there's sometimes like symbols left at the crime scene, you know, ritualistic things that happen, stuff like that. So the only two things we have to make it a cult killing is it was a full moon and it's children. But how many other children are killed around the world on a full moon and it's not cult related?
Yeah.
So they're testifying that these people are in a cult. But even if the killing was cult related and these guys are in a cult, yeah, you'd probably want to look into them, but it doesn't mean they did this murder.
No. Was it Vicky?
Mm.
Did she get a sentence for that credit card fraud?
I don't know.
I wonder if that was what might have made her say those things, if she got off the hook for those things.
Damien took the stand at his trial where Jason's team advised him not to, and Damien and Jason had different defence teams, and Damien's team were basically going that the police had tunnel vision and were basically just pointing fingers at this guy because he's weird.
Yeah.
And Jason's team was going with the narrative that Jason's guilty by association. So by saying that, I'm pretty sure that makes the jury think Damien's the guilty one.
Yeah.
Jason's just caught up in it because he's his friend. And there's a really sad scene where they're waiting for the jury verdict to come back, and Jason's defence lawyer is like, are you going to be more careful when you pick your friends next time? And Jason's like, yeah, I probably wouldn't hang out with Damien anymore. And I just think, don't let them do this.
This poor kid.
They brought in the fact that Damien was asked, why did you think these killings occurred? And he said he enjoyed it. So basically just everything he had said, they picked apart. They even picked apart the name that he changed to. So they were basically like, Damien's associated with Satan. But he was like, no, I was raised a Catholic, and there's a saint called Damien who basically spent time with lepers trying to heal them, and he died of leprosy himself. And Damien was inspired by him, so he changed his name to Damien. That had nothing to do with the devil, but they were like, yeah, that's...
Of course, just another string to his satanic bow.
Yeah. I think he had written some dark stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he's a kid trying to express himself.
And if he's very well read on, Stephen King, everything like that, and they said that he's well spoken and is quite it sounds like he writes his own stories.
Yeah. So that was brought into it. The fact of he had this book from the library that had quotes underlined in it, or pages underlined that they said was satanic stuff, and he was like, they were there when I got it, it's from the library.
Yeah, how could you ever prove that was him?
It doesn't make it me. So then Jason, obviously, like I said, he didn't take the stand, and it was very much like he was guilty by association kind of thing. And there was actually a person who was in prison or jail with Jason called Michael Carson, who took the stand and said Jason had confessed to sucking the blood out of Christopher Byers' castrated penis.
Sorry?
Because there wasn't much blood found at the crime scene, considering this guy had been castrated. There wasn't much blood, and the police did do luminol testing, but they didn't really find that much, and they did it days later after it had been raining, so evidence would have been washed away anyway. So that's
a very weird thing to say.
Yeah, and they were like, well, that makes sense why it's not a bloody crime scene then, because Jason drank it. That's the way it was going. It's honestly, I just can't imagine. And in the documentary, Jason and Damien are actually quite calm.
Oh, really?
In the documentary, we see a lot of the family members wanting them to pay for this. They're very angry. We see a lot of the West Memphis community very angry. We see Gary Gitchell just loving it because he's obviously like a hero for catching them. We meet the Judge David Burnett, who's honestly, like, he really had a thing against these kids because he followed the case all the way through for any appeal and basically just shut them down completely. On the documentary, we also see Damien and Jason waiting for the verdict to come back, and they're just joking around because they both said, we didn't do it, so we're not going to actually be found guilty on this. Like, this is all so ridiculous that the jury's not going to find us guilty. But unfortunately, Jason Baldwin was sentenced to life in prison and Damien Echols was sent to death by lethal injection and was put on death row. And it's really sad because, you know, Dominique here, Damien's friend, girlfriend, she was carrying their baby when he was arrested, and he didn't get to meet his baby boy until the jury was deliberating, and he met him the first time in the courtroom on camera.
Jesus. Did he actually die?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I can't deal with that.
So another person that features very heavily in these documentaries is John Mark Byers, and when I said he is a wackadoodle-doo, honestly, this man just does the most. He is so performative. There is like a scene where he lines up pumpkins and shoots at them and says they're the 3 suspects.
There's a few people I wouldn't mind going on shooting with it, but hopefully the courts and the justice system take care of them. But they reach prison, they're going to get took care of. I thought I could save the state a lot of money. If they just let me line them 3 son of a guns up, I'd say, this one here's for you, Jesse, and we're going to go for the jug of water. Oh, Jesse, I done blowed you half in 2, son. Now, this one here's for you, Damien. You that black circle right in the middle. Oh, you got hurt. Damn. That sure looked painful, didn't it? Yeah. Hey, Jason, I want you to smile and blow me a kiss for this one.
When the first documentary aired, obviously a lot of people outside of West Memphis tuned in to watch in 1996. And actually, after I came across it after watching West of Memphis, this other documentary on it, I bought the 3 trilogy DVD of Paradise Lost because I wanted to learn more about it. So yeah, the Paradise Lost ones are really good, but they're like 6 hours in total. But if anyone's got an interest in this and
got
wants
6 hours.
to watch it, it's a really interesting watch. And a lot of people started the Free the West Memphis 3 movement because they could kind of see what had happened at the trial and was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, these poor kids. And a lot of people identified with Damien.
Yeah.
I myself, when watching West of Memphis, I was a kid who wore black. I was an outcast. I didn't like people. I still don't.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's like me now.
Yeah, like, and a lot of people were kind of like, well, if they could do it to him, they could literally do it to anyone.
That's terrifying, and it's so true. It's just lucky that when we were growing up, it wasn't like demonized anymore because...
Yeah, because people came to their senses.
Yeah.
It's like the witch trials things. It just kind of stopped and was like, that was kind of crazy, actually.
That was such a weird time.
That was a really weird phase. So, yeah, a lot of people came together. There was a website started. And a lot of people saw John Mark Byers' behaviour in this documentary and was like, this guy's really actually doing the most.
Yeah.
He's a bit suspicious, actually. And people started pointing the finger at him, and I'm going to show you some clips which I'm going to try and put up on the screen, but we'll cut the camera so I can show Ellen, just because I can't verbally explain how odd he is. So that's in the first one.
Oh my god.
So can you see why people thought this guy is doing the most, and it's performative.
It's so fake.
And it's kind of looking like he could be a suspect because obviously then you learn about like him beating Christopher with a belt.
Yeah.
I guess it could have been the culture, but it just seems a bit extreme for an 8-year-old in the 90s. But
and why did he make him change his middle name as well?
I think he's quite controlling. So he's a good candidate, and there was a question because there was a knife handed into police that John Mark Byers had given away to someone, and John said he had never used this knife, but it had blood on. But the blood testing back in the 90s was only, it could tell you like the blood group.
Yeah.
So it had like Chris's blood group on and John's, and John was like, well, I never used it, but I could have used it and nicked myself. So his stories are changing.
Yeah.
But it's actually alleged that John Mark Byers was a undercover narcotics informant. So he was really pally with the West Memphis police, and he would like have them around for like beers and barbecues all the time.
That's weird.
In the second episode of Paradise Lost, it aired in the 2000s, so it's was obviously filmed before this, and it kind of went through trying to get an appeal. And they talked to the judge in the case, because obviously they got all this media attention as well, that it wasn't a fair trial. So they talked to the judge and say, like, you know, what do you think? Do you think they should get another trial? And he was like, no, the evidence was suffice. The right people are behind bars. And I'm not allowing cameras in the courtroom anymore. I should have never done it. If I could go back, I wouldn't have let cameras in the courtroom.
What?
Yeah.
How is there not one person that stepped back from it and been like, this is kind of weird, actually?
This is crazy. Gary Gitchell is interviewed on this as well and said, would you do anything differently? And he was like, I probably wouldn't have said I was 11 out of 10 confident. But that's the only thing. The right person's behind bars. I know there's lots of rumours swirling around about John Mark Byers, but just because he's got a ponytail and he has a certain look, people are doing to him what they've accused us of doing to Damien. But we did get the right guys. But John's innocent, he's cleared. So people need to stop looking at him. And the documentary features John so heavily, like it does feature the three trying to get out and get an appeal, and the people who are like all banding together to get their appeal. There was people who actually moved to West Memphis to work on this case, like just members of the public, and a lady called Laurie from New York. She thought Damien was innocent and started sending him letters in prison, and they fell in love and they ended up getting married when Damien was on death row in a Buddhist ceremony, because I think he went Buddhist when in jail. I think he's been through quite a lot of faiths.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a lot of media attention. A lot of people pointed the finger at John Mark Byers. Then people in the West Memphis community started saying, wherever that John Mark Byers goes, trouble actually follows. And now his wife's dead.
What? How did she die?
So, one morning, an ambulance was called to the Byers' residence.
Yeah.
And Melissa was unconscious. She was taken to hospital, and unfortunately she died at 40 years old. In Paradise Lost 2, the autopsy is still taking a time to come back, and John's like, oh, I just need to clear my name. I wish the autopsy would come back because I didn't do it. And when the autopsy did come back, it was after the show had already aired, and her cause of death is undetermined. Even the manner of death, whether it was a suicide or a homicide, is undetermined. They said she did have substances in her system, but not a lethal amount. And apparently on the way to the hospital, John followed by getting a lift from a neighbour. He followed the ambulance and said to the neighbour, oh, people are going to think I smothered her. So that was quite weird, and apparently the two were quite quarrelsome. And the medical examiner said it's really odd, actually, because you don't usually get an undetermined cause of death or manner of death when a person hasn't been left for days.
That's the thing, it seems very odd because it was straight away.
Yeah,
but was
so bizarre.
If she was smothered, would she have like fibres in her throat or something?
I'm sure they could tell that it was asphyxiation if it was that.
Yeah.
But everything was undetermined, and her death was first ruled as suspicious, but now it's just not. So I don't understand what investigating they did around that, but it's just John Mark Byers is on the Paradise Lost 2 documentary. Like, the three in prison killed her. She died of a broken heart. They've taken my wife, my house, my teeth.
His teeth?
Yeah. Because in this one, we get new evidence of a bite mark on Stevie Branch's body. So they take bite mark impressions of the three sat in prison. And guess what? They don't fucking match.
What a surprise.
So they don't match the three sat in prison. So then people are campaigning outside the courthouse when this appeal is due to go through, which is actually overseen by Judge David Burnett, who declined it, and he declined a lot of their appeals, so eventually they had to go to the Arkansas Supreme Court, and he actually ran for Senate, so wasn't a judge anymore, so had nothing to do with the case, and when he got taken off it, things started happening, but that takes a while.
Yeah.
People are outside selling t-shirts saying "Free the West Memphis Free," and John Mark Byers comes up to them and he's like, you shouldn't be selling these t-shirts, 3 in prison are guilty, you're supporting murderers, these profits should be going to victims' family. And the people selling t-shirts are like, it is going to the victims because we're finding out who actually did it and delivering justice. And he was like, well, I think they did it. The good men and women on Arkansas on the jury believe me, agree with me, and sent the right people to prison. And they're like, why don't you give your bite mark impression? Just a thought.
Rule yourself out.
Yeah, rule yourself out. And he was like, I don't need to, I'm taking a polygraph on camera to rule myself out, which he does and he passes.
Yeah, but it's not really relevant, is it?
No, it's not. And then he's like, oh, well, I don't even have teeth. Because when, obviously, Christopher died, I went down a really bad path and got into fights and got all my teeth knocked out. But then it later came out that he actually had oral surgery to remove all of his teeth due to periodontal disease that he said was a side effect of this seizure medication called Tegretol, but it's not. So he just had periodontal disease. It was nothing to do with the 3, but he said he blamed them for him losing his teeth. And on the documentary, when they're asking him about the bite mark, he takes his dentures out to show you on camera, and it's like, that's not necessary.
Sir.
You need to see your dentures. Like, these filmmakers must have just been like, what the actual fuck is going on? What in the frick frack fuck is happening?
Would he have had dentures at the time?
No, they were removed after the murders. And I'm going to show you another clip of him sitting at his wife's grave. Basically, he's saying how much he misses her and she's his best friend. And then he just goes off the rails.
Those animals killed you. They're evil animals. They killed you. And I blame them for your death. And all for you morons, infidels, and fools that think I had anything to do with it, go to hell! Go to hell! I love my wife more than any man could love his wife on the face of the earth.
And then I'll just show you another clip that this is also in the second one. And he basically goes into the woods, digs these stakes of wood in the ground, puts the police tape from the investigation on the pieces of wood, and basically says it's each of the 3's in prison graves. Because he was like, they're not dead yet, so I can't spit on their grave, so I'm going to burn it and spit on them.
I swore I'd stand at your grave and kiss it. Well, I'm doing it a little bit early. I'm gonna bury you 3 bastards right here and send you to hell. It's crime scene tape. They come off what they stretched in front of me when they found my babies out here. Wouldn't let me by. I thought it was just fitting to bring it back to your memorial fund. Jesse, you got your flowers. That's your head marker, you animal. Damien. Jason, there's yours. You want to worship the devil? See him. I'm going to give you a farewell party. Now we're going to have some fun.
And
It's all very performative.
And when you, but the key thing is when you look, when he's the one with his wife's grave, when you look at his eyes are just nothing.
Yeah,
Like there's
they're not
just
even
no
crying.
emotion in them at all.
Yeah.
Just nothing. Which surely you would have, like, even if you're not crying, because not everyone does that, your eyes would be able to convey
Windows to the
one
soul.
emotion, just one emotion. That's blank.
I just find it so weird that he's sat there pretending to cry and then looks at the camera and just starts shouting at everyone.
Yeah, that is the most abnormal behaviour in this entire case. Yeah, it's fine. He's fine.
I couldn't accurately describe that to you without showing you these videos, and like I said, everyone, I will try and put them up where they correlate, just so you can follow this, but I'm also going to put this link to this compilation. It's a 20-minute compilation of John Mark Byers in Paradise Lost. We go on quite the journey, but you really need to see it to believe it, because I can't accurately describe this.
No, because it's too deranged.
It's bizarre.
I don't know if he was drunk in parts of that, or I don't... I just...
So, at the end of Paradise Lost 2, it comes up on the screen that he was arrested and spent some time he got sentenced to some time in prison for buying narcotics or selling prescription drugs to an undercover officer. Either buying or selling to an undercover officer, which he's an informant.
I was going to say, isn't he meant to be an informant?
Get it, but he spent some time in jail, and then we really don't hear anything other than just appeal after appeal that keeps getting denied. But in 2012, Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory comes out, and in that time, a lot of things have come to light about the trial. So, you know, the boys' bodies, they were really in a bad way.
Yeah.
And they said a knife was used and there was a sexual assault. There wasn't.
Whoa.
There's very little evidence to support that. What actually happened is the boys were beaten to death and hogtied and got put in the water, and obviously Stevie and Michael were still alive at that point, probably unconscious, hopefully unconscious, and they subsequently drowned. What they've got in the 10 Mile Bayou in Robin Hood Hills is alligator snapping turtles.
Oh, okay.
They put a pig carcass in with the alligator snapping turtles, and the marks are identical. They go for bits of easy to reach flesh, and when they're biting it, they'll scratch. It's not a serrated knife, it's an animal scratch. Most of these wounds were done post-mortem, which explains why there's no blood at the crime scene.
That is embarrassing.
And Dr. Peretti was the medical examiner. He was actually he works for the prosecution. He doubled down when a load of independent medical examiners, each one independent from another, looked at the autopsy photos, all said without fail, animal activity post-mortem. And he is the only one who said, "Oh, look at it, but I'm standing by my initial ruling."
That's unbelievable. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, and there's one part in West of Memphis documentary where a man actually lets a alligator snapping turtle bite him, and there's marks on the boys that literally look like the alligator snapping turtle's beak.
Yeah, because they are very powerful, those little nasty beaks.
Yep. So, that dispels a lot. And then we've also got Vicky Hutchinson and Michael Carson, you know, the boy who's made that statement about Jason and Vicky doing all of that. They came forward and said, "We lied. We just lied.
No reason for that, just...
We're sorry we lied." Vicky Hutchinson says she was coached by Jerry Driver on how it was a lot more than just, can you get information? He was like, you need to basically invite him round and put all these satanic books out and a pentagram and basically entice him out to admit stuff to you. What actually happened in the meeting is she invited Damien round. Damien came in. He looked at the satanic stuff and was like, you shouldn't have that at this time because of all the stuff going on. And she was like, why do people think you did it? And he was like, I don't know, I'm just weird, I guess. Like, that's literally it. And she was like, well, did you? And he was like, no, obviously not.
Why did you invite me here?
So that's literally all that happened. And she passed a polygraph. So... that kind of says it about that.
Yeah.
Damien and Jason did get a polygraph and they failed. I feel like I have to say that. And I will go over some evidence of why they could have done it. One big thing that goes against the prosecution is that the killings weren't how they portrayed it.
Yeah.
Most of the brutal stuff was animal activity post-mortem, so...
Also... did they actually test whether these guys could do those knots? Because That's
yeah,
like
that would make sense.
That's not something that everyone can do, right? That's quite intricate to be able to do that. I wouldn't know how to
because
hog
then
tie
is someone just gonna not do it just because they're being tested on it and be like, oh well, I can't do it.
Yeah,
So
I guess so, but that's
would be interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like just that kind of knot, even like how would you learn that? You'd have to be interested in something. What would even require that? Like a butcher?
I don't know.
Or a farmer?
I don't know what knots were used. I just know they were hog
No, but to do a
a
hog tie, like that's just...
Yeah, because I think two or three different knots were used on each of the boys, though... Do you even know 2 or 3 knots? Because no,
I don't.
No, I wouldn't know. John Douglas, a former FBI profiler, says the profile for the murders is not satanic and completely unrelated, and that likely wouldn't be done by 3 defendants. He said, this profiler said, whose its job it is to look at crimes and be like, this is the sort of person that done it, said it would be one person and it's most likely someone who knew them, perhaps a familial connection, and most likely a man. So we know that Todd Moore was out until 8 p.m. at work somewhere else. He has an alibi.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to be surprised at this. I don't think John Mark Byers did it.
Okay.
I think his personality, he would have tripped himself up. Also, he does have an alibi.
Oh, does he?
But I went through the timeline. He wasn't alone, really. He wouldn't have had time to do that.
So what, he came back from work, then he picked up his son.
Because the boys were last seen around 6 p.m. I think actually after that someone else might have seen them. But Dana Moore definitely seen them at 6 p.m. So that's when he went out to collect his son. And then they came back at 6 p.m. and said, Ryan, go find Christopher.
Yeah.
And then he was out with Melissa and Chris looking, and other people in the community who were out and about, they were asking if they had seen Christopher, so they were able to corroborate that.
Yeah.
So he's just freaking weird.
He is weird. Do you think he just didn't really care about Christopher, and that's why it's all an act, because he just doesn't care?
Yeah.
So he's just pretending he does, and that's the performance.
Absolutely. And I think he's quite controlling, so he wants to control a narrative. And he also, in the second instalment of Paradise Lost, the West Memphis 3 believe it's John Mark Byers. They look at the other documentary and they're like, he's putting on a performance. He is not like this. He's fake. You need to look into him. So it was basically like the Spider-Man meme of them pointing at each other. It was someone completely different. So we have theories of who it could be. And we kind of see this in Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory. Like I said, we move into that documentary. And John Mark Byers has an absolute glow up. I think that time in prison, however long he spent in there, did him the world of good, because he's more softly spoken. He's got rid of the ponytail.
Thank God.
And he is like, I've let go of the guilt that maybe I didn't protect Christopher. Felt really guilty about that. I felt really guilty that I used to hit him with a belt and all of that. So maybe he's worked through some stuff. He also believes the West Memphis 3 are innocent.
What? How did he flip-flop on that?
He said he took a step back, looked at the evidence and thought, nah.
I guess he had nothing but time.
Yeah, and the evidence that I was going to go into that are against the 3. So Jason and Damien failed the lie detector. There was blood found on Damien's necklace. Again, they could only find out the blood group.
Yeah.
So it was the same blood group as Jason Baldwin and Stevie Branch. How many other people have that blood group?
Depending on what one it is. There's one that's quite rare, but...
And then there's some fibres that was found at the crime scene that matched a robe in Jason's house and a t-shirt or something in Damien's sister's closet. But then it was found that the fibres could have been linked to loads of other materials. So literally, other than eyewitnesses saying, oh, I saw the 3 around the area,
that's it.
It's not beyond a reasonable doubt.
No.
There is no forensic
She not
evidence.
For death row, Jesus.
I know, and the thing is, I was talking to someone about this the other day. I'm so glad that DNA has involved. I'm so glad that there's mobile phone records where they can tell where your general location is, because if you look back at some of the infamous serial killers over the years, like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, they were just out there doing it.
Yeah.
Their body count is high.
Yeah. And no one really noticed for a long time.
Yeah. And the police didn't really have much to go on at the time. Damien's alibi was quite shaky for that night. He gave quite a few different accounts of the alibi, but all in all, it's weak. Very weak. So anyway, in this Paradise Lost purgatory, they have a new defence team who approaches the Arkansas Attorney General and basically says, can we get a new trial? There's new DNA evidence. There's a hair found at the crime scene. DNA evidence has come along. The hair was in the binding of Michael Moore's shoelaces being hogtied, and the hair relates to Terry Hobbs.
Oh.
So, obviously, he had a close connection to Stevie. That hair could have got there because it was on Stevie, could have got put in the knot. They approached the Attorney General to say, can we have a new trial? There's also come out that there was jury misconduct in Damien and Jason's trial because the jury foreman, Ken Arnold, he basically was told about Jesse's confession, which was obviously not brought into their trial, and told the rest of the jurors.
Great.
So on that alone, they should get a new trial, but this was going to take quite some time, and even though there was new DNA evidence, it was all kind of circumstantial, so nothing really related to a new culprit, and they wouldn't exonerate them without them basically solving the crime for them. That's
So
what
it's
it felt
all or
like.
nothing,
They were
yeah.
kind of like, if you can get us someone else, then we'll exonerate you, but until then, no. Then the defence attorneys came up with a different idea to get them out. They approached them about an Alford plea, and an Alford plea is the dodgiest shit ever, because you basically enter a formal guilty plea while maintaining your innocence because you agree that it's in the best interest, that the state has enough evidence against you that you would most likely be found guilty if you went to another trial, but you can get out with time served, and obviously the state can close the case because they've caught the guys. There's a formal guilty plea, and you have the burden of being a child murderer all your life.
How? What
What are they even used for? They're basically used for when police really fuck up.
They need to close it
and they
quickly.
need to just be like, okay, we know we fucked up, so you can get out, but we need you to just agree, because then you've got to think they don't get any compensation for the time they spent in jail. Damien actually has permanent eye damage because of the lack of direct sunlight and has to wear dark sunglasses everywhere, which probably doesn't help the cult image.
Oh, yeah.
So he had a really tough time on death row as well. Obviously, they're child murderers.
Yeah, they are the
They're
lowest
gonna
of the low.
a hard time in prison, and because of the media attention, the guards also really mistreated him because they were like, we're sick of you being in the media.
Oh.
And Damien was like, yep, I'm up for taking the Alford plea. Jesse was like, yeah, I've got this weight of the confession on me, I'm up for taking the Alford plea and getting out. But Jason was like, even if it means spending more time in prison, I want to be exonerated. I did not do this crime. But the state was like, well, we can't have two of you go on the Alford plea and then one of you work to exonerate yourselves. It has to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
So Jason left it to the last minute to decide, but ultimately he took it because Damien's on death row and they could execute him at any time. So they all got out after 18 years in prison.
Wow, 18 years.
Yes, so they spent quite some time, and I did have the date, August 19th of 2011, after serving 18 years.
Wow.
And to continue the fight for justice on the outside. And I actually saw a Instagram post from Damien the other day, because I've followed him on Instagram for many years, and he said it was the anniversary, and the producer of Paradise Lost commented on it like, I'm so happy for you, and he said, look, we wouldn't have been able to do it without you. And on the documentary he says, we were dirt poor, Arkansas would have executed me and buried this documentary has saved my life. And a lot of celebrities actually got involved with the movement. So Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam visited the three in prison, Johnny Depp, and the Dixie Chicks.
That's random.
And when this hair thing came about from Terry Hobbs, people started looking into him and thought he was quite a viable suspect. And the Dixie Chicks really ran with this. And Terry Hobbs actually sued the Dixie Chicks for defamation.
Wow.
And on the stand, he looks shifty as fuck. Him and Pam have since actually divorced. And she has come out and said he was very abusive to Stevie. He used to whoop him with the belt. His grandparents saw bruises on him, and he would say, Terry did it to me. Amanda appears in the West Memphis documentary, and she obviously had quite a traumatic childhood. Her brother was murdered and her family would have been changed forever.
Yeah.
She uses substances now, and she says, I can't remember any of my childhood. I don't think my dad ever touched me, but I have dreams of my dad having sex with me. That's inconclusive, I will admit, but I just think it's important to mention that that is weird.
That's not a normal thing to dream.
No, absolutely
without
not.
something in your subconscious, some sort of memory in there.
Yeah. There's another thing against Terry Hobbs in the fact that he said on the night of the murders from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. he was out looking for Stevie the whole night and he never saw the boys. But when Jamie Ballard, a 13-year-old at the time of the murders, teenager, heard about Terry saying he never saw the boys, she came out after the trial was done years later and said, he did see them. The murders occurred on a Wednesday. I went to a youth group at the church every Wednesday. I was waiting outside the front of my house between 5:30 and 6:30, and Christopher rode past me and I know his brother Ryan. So I said to Christopher, oh, Ryan's looking for you need to go home. And he said, I don't have to do what you tell me. So she was just kind of like, okay, whatever, don't go home then, and kind of went about her business. And then she saw Terry Hobbs come out the Hobbs house and call all three boys over to him. So he did see them, and she is positive of that, and she doesn't know why Terry would lie. And she said the reason she didn't come out sooner was because she assumed Terry had told the police that he had seen them. We also know Terry wasn't looking for Stevie all night because he was with his friend David Jacoby, whose hair was also found at the crime scene, which I don't think David Jacoby was involved, but Terry was in his house before he left and then was unaccounted for 2 hours. He has a whole of 2 hours in his alibi.
But how would that guy's hair be found? Like,
Because Terry's in his house and gets his hair on him, walks through the woods and brushes some hair off. Because then, in West of Memphis, Terry's also on the phone to David Jacoby when David Jacoby's like, could Terry have done it? He was round my house playing guitars, but he left, and I'm 90% sure he left Amanda with me to say he had to go find Stevie. And then there was a period of time where he was gone. He came back up to pick up Amanda and David and was like, I can't find Stevie. So they drove around in the car for 10 minutes before Terry was like, yeah, I'll drop you off, we'll get some better clothes on to go through the woods. And then he never came back to pick up David.
So actually then it could be a case of a rage killing. If we know he has a temper because he hits him, and then he finds the three of them and they've just like not wanted to come home and he just absolutely loses it.
Yeah, so there is some more evidence against him. And in the West of Memphis documentary, like I said, David Jacoby's going over it in his head like, oh, could he have done it? Could he have done it?
Yeah.
He's on the phone to Terry like, oh, the police are asking about it. People are asking questions. It's years later. I just don't know what happened. Terry's like, we were out looking for Stevie all night. He's just so shifty. And then more people in the West of Memphis documentary come in who's Terry's nephew, and he said he heard his Uncle Terry and his dad talking in the basement one night about a Hobbs family secret. And the Hobbs family secret is that Terry killed those three boys in West Memphis.
Why would you keep that a secret? Like, why would other people not say anything?
Well, he did. Eventually he called a tip line.
No, but the
brother, Terry's brother.
Why would you keep that a secret?
Why would Terry kill three boys? They're just bad people.
Yeah, but obviously the murderer's not going to say anything. But if you'd like to think that just because they're related doesn't mean that he would be like, oh, I'll keep that a secret.
Yeah. So there are other theories other than Terry Hobbs. There is the Bojangles man.
The Bojangles? Oh yeah, from the bathroom. Yeah.
Never seen again. He's obviously not going to come forward either. This was me and this is what I was doing, because he probably saw what was happening to the West Memphis Free and was like, what the actual fuck? We've got the idea that it could have been a trucker who stumbled across the boys by chance. I personally think that's unlikely.
In the woods?
He could have been going for a wee, but the truck stop is by Devil's Den, and we know the kids most likely weren't in the Devil's Den area. They were found by the Devil's Den area and their bikes chucked in. I don't think they were in the Devil's Den area by choice.
Yeah.
So I personally think that's a bit weak. I don't think it could be someone unrelated in West Memphis because nothing ever happened since, and I don't feel like this is a one and done thing.
I suppose it makes sense that the boys knew them because they had to get close enough to them.
Exactly. There are 2 other suspects identified as Chris Morgan and Brian Holland, who were both drug offence histories and had abruptly departed to Oceanside, California 4 days after the bodies were discovered. Morgan was presumed to be at least casually familiar with all 3 of the murdered boys, having previously driven an ice cream truck route in their neighbourhood. They were arrested in Oceanside on May 17th, 1993. Morgan and Holland both took polygraph exams, and it was reported that deception was detected. And during subsequent questioning, Morgan claimed a long history of drug and alcohol use and said he had blackouts and memory lapses, and he claimed he might have killed the victims, but quickly recanted this part of the statement. And they weren't looked into anymore, but they should have been.
Yeah, but they'd already decided the outcome by that point.
Yeah, it seems like the investigation didn't start off crazy by the actual investigators, but then it just got taken over.
Yeah.
And then there's a theory out there, which I don't think is true at all, that Jerry Driver and Steve Jones killed the boys to frame Damien. But to me, draw a pentagram on the floor at least. If you're going to frame Damien, you had him weekly meetings with him, you would have his DNA on stuff, chuck that in the crime scene.
And it just seems like they're the kinds of people that just think they like keep everyone safe in the town, and that if you don't fit in the cookie cutter, you're some kind of delinquent. I don't know, that you don't want in the town to like ruin the good name, or do you know that like they seem too far on that end to do something like that, surely.
I genuinely believe that Jerry Driver believed it all. I genuinely
I'm sure you would have
he
to.
thought he was doing the best he could.
Yeah.
He was actually 50 when he went into this line of work. He was an airplane pilot before this. So he retired from that and then went to this. So I feel like he never really did it out of a passion of helping kids get on the right path. He was 50 years old by that point. He was probably like, oh, kids these days, they're all smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, wearing black, causing panic in my town. My town.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't see that being a thing. But he must have believed it to go that hard and to spread rumours and all those things. He probably thought he was just helping along the inevitable, which was that he was guilty.
But for them to have done it, it's literally relying on the stupidity of the other police officers to go along with your narrative without doing anything else. But I would expect them to at least draw a pentagram on the floor.
Well, it's that prejudice though, isn't it? Like, they all clearly had a prejudice against Damien and his interests. And we see that people do, I mean, like racism and everything like that is all a prejudice. So it happens. And that's just another case of that.
But
in
I
a
just think
different
they
way.
would have done more to link it to him if they were going to frame him.
No, I'm not saying that
Otherwise
they framed him. They definitely didn't.
No. There's theories, obviously, that the West Memphis Three did do it. And they're all evil. And that's just that. They are cult worshipping. And there's theories that they did it, but it wasn't cult related. But without the cult stuff, what links them to it?
Yeah.
And I saw a Reddit thread the other day because I want to know what evidence is out there. I have researched this so much and genuinely I can't find any strong evidence. I want to know. So if you have it, please comment. Message us on Instagram. I want to know because I want to know why people think this way. I went on Reddit the other day and someone said, yeah, they did it, but it's not cult related. And someone else commented saying, what evidence do you have? Because they said there was evidence, and then they said, I'm not the prosecution, I don't have to prove it. We're having a discussion. So I just saw that and thought, no, I'm not buying into that. If you'd asked me what I think happened, even though I'm a nobody, so my opinion doesn't really matter, but I think personally that Terry Hobbs saw them when Jamie Ballard saw him. He asked them to come home and they just rode off. He went to David Jacoby's to play guitar, leave Amanda there, went back out to find Stevie, and he got into an argument with Stevie, started beating him, and I think Chris Byers might have said something or stuck up for Stevie. He might have then turned his attention to Chris Byers, maybe knocked him out, did something too far,
and it escalated.
and thought, that's someone else's child. And there's 2 witnesses, and if that boy's dead, fuck. So then the other 2 might have been scared shock, frozen. He tied them up. Chris had already died from whatever injury he caused him by striking him, and then went to the other 2, and that's why they had defensive wounds. That's why Christopher died before he went in the water. This is all alleged, and in my opinion, don't sue me like the Dixie Chicks.
I mean, that does make the most sense. It's a shame because it feels like, because they'd already decided who was guilty, it was at the detriment of any evidence that they actually could have collected. So now there's just nothing to go off. Literally
Cases
nothing.
Can be solved years later if the evidence is well preserved and collected. And I saw in 2025 there's been a ruling that they are going to test some more DNA evidence in the case now.
Okay.
To try and exonerate the 3 finally, because they got out in 2011, they're still not exonerated.
Wow.
So it really is, you have to prove who else did it for you to be exonerated, when I don't see why they can't just be exonerated without it.
Yeah, surely
Seems really
it's clear
bizarre.
they haven't done it and it remains unsolved. It shouldn't be a swap-in. If you're not guilty, you're not guilty. Whether you find who is or isn't, that person still shouldn't be.
But I guess if they get exonerated, they will have to get some sort of compensation because of all the misconduct that went on in their trial, the unfair trial they got by media, just everything. It's just so bad.
But it's clear that they didn't do it already, so the only reason is, I guess, if it's reopened, it just looks bad for them without anyone swapping in for guilty.
Yeah.
Then it just doesn't look good.
And like I said, I believe that Jerry Driver didn't have these awful intentions. I just believe he was pretty bad at his job and believed he was doing the right thing. And the people who had more authority than him, like Gary Gitchell, should have stopped it all and been like, no, we need to follow the evidence. We need to do this properly. And I feel like Gary Gitchell is more nefarious than Jerry Driver because I think he knew better. And he still, there was pressure. He
wasn't
wanted to
easy
do
out.
it. John Fogelman, the prosecutor, it's in West of Memphis, and it's really annoying because I can't remember this bloke's name who came out and said it, because I had to rent it on YouTube and I watched it with Kieran, and then I was going to go back and find the guy's name, but it expired after like 3 days if you don't watch it. So annoyingly, I can't remember the name of the guy, but there is someone in the West of Memphis documentary that says, I asked Fogelman, privately, if it was satanic, and he was like, no.
Wow.
So those people to me are far more nefarious, and I believe John Fogelman was actually elected as a judge after, so maybe he was trying to win the trial and go so hard because these are elected positions, like the judge and everything like that. It's all very political in America. So I do feel like there was a lot of that playing into it, but just ultimately it's just a sad case that the person out there who actually did it has stolen 6 lives pretty much, because even though they're on the outside, people do still think they're guilty. And if you think they're guilty, like I said, tell me why you think they're guilty and it might give me a different view. But from all I've looked into, and there's so many things in this case, this episode is probably going to be over 2 hours, but this is an overview.
There's a lot more you could dig, I guess.
But these are the main points. Have I overwhelmed your brain?
I mean, it's just crazy that this has all happened and they were in prison for 18 years for no evidence, really.
Damien's son was the same age as he was when he was convicted, when he got released.
That's just scary. It is scary. Because like you say, you think... And they thought, like, this is silly. Like, we're not actually going to be convicted of it. This is silliness. And they were. And then it makes you think, oh my God, like, this is really a case of, it is a witch trial.
Yeah.
If there's anything that's not normal about you, it can be weaponized against you.
Yeah.
When actually, everything that they thought led from him to the case was not
all
true.
Irrelevant.
Yeah. And even after that, it didn't matter.
Yeah, because the only medical examiner's report that mattered was Dr. Peretti's.
Yeah, so how,
Who was
even
the
after
only
all
one
that?
who said about the knife being used. There wasn't even a knife in the case.
Yeah, they just
Jason
magically
Baldwin.
found this knife, and it was all accepted, and even after it all came out to be BS, that in itself was not enough to get them out, and they
Yeah.
still have that cloud over them to this day. And maybe they are guilty, but from what I've heard and everything there, it doesn't seem that way to me.
And it's really important to remember there's two issues here. It's whether they're guilty or not, and whether they got a fair trial or not. Because whether you think they're guilty or not, I think it's a fact to say they didn't get a fair trial.
100%.
And this could be your family member, this could be my family member, it could literally be me or you. You need everyone to have a fair trial. And do you know what? The police are, if they are guilty, the police are still culpable in my opinion, because they made such a cock up of the investigation.
Yeah.
They made such a cock up of the evidence. They had tunnel vision. There's so many things that they can then say, this was an unfair trial,
Yeah.
that now you've let 3 guilty men walk free if they did it.
Yeah.
Because of your mess ups.
And it's not even really a mess up, like they were incompetent. They literally steered
Purposely.
the investigation that way, and got people to lie and spread rumours. Like, it's not even they didn't do their jobs. They literally did the complete opposite of their jobs.
I see it as a lot of bad dominoes falling, and there was a lot of things going on, so there's not one person that's responsible. Like, all the people in West Memphis who jumped on the bandwagon, they played a part in it. The media played a part in it.
Yeah.
John Mark Byers played a part in it.
Yeah, and all it would have taken is for one sane person to be like, this,
Yeah.
prove it to me, because none of this actually proves
Yeah.
anything to me.
And it's funny that turned out to be John Mark Byers, because in the third Paradise Lost, he's outside the courthouse for their Alford plea. Cameras aren't allowed inside, obviously. And he's like, these men are innocent. This
I'm
is
glad
not
he
justice.
sees that. Yeah.
This is not right. And the people of Arkansas need to stand up and raise hell, because 3 innocent men are going to have to claim today that they're guilty for a crime they didn't know. And that's bullshit. They're innocent. They did not kill my son. And this is wrong, what the state of Arkansas is doing to cover their ass.
Amen.
And I'm sick of it.
Amen.
Because the real killer is walking around free.
Yeah, and Damien actually wrote him a letter, which he reads out on camera, and basically says, I'm sorry for pointing the finger at you. I'm glad that you've been able to look at the evidence and see it's not me. John Mark Byers strongly believe it's Terry Hobbs.
Let's look at the guilty. Motive, means, and opportunity. He had a violent past, he worked in a slaughterhouse, and he admits being in the woods at 6:30. Terry Hobbs admits it. No one else puts him there, he puts himself there. No alibi. Can't count for the crucial times from 6:30 to 8, 8:30 to 9, 10 to 11:15, and from 2:30 to 5 a.m. That's a lot of gap in time of what were you doing, Mr. Hobbs? Where were you? Claims to have been with Jacoby. At times, Jacoby denies. Now, here's your own witness denying what you said. To me, that doesn't look too good. Not interviewed or cleared by the police. Now there, the West Memphis PD 101 totally fell on their face.
They didn't go talk to Terry Hobbs and question him about what he did that night. They didn't treat him the way they treated me. Inconsistent statement. He never saw any of the boys that day. We know that's wrong. He was seen by 3 witnesses that were neighbors. That could have come out back on May 5th or 6th if the West Memphis PD would have canvassed that neighborhood. They just canvassed this neighborhood. Never went around and asked any of Hobbs' neighbors a word. They'd have told them that back then. He would have been caught in his lie then. He would have been the last person to have seen him. The police would have zeroed in on him instead of Damien, and they'd have got the real killer. And we would not be here talking today. I believe that this was presented to a jury, they would find Terry Hobbs guilty. This is more evidence and facts than against the West Memphis 3 or me or anyone else.
Was at the Alfred police, saw Terry Hobbs and was like, there's the child killer now.
Oh my God.
So, and even in the third one where we see him again, he was like, yeah, the police just did a witch hunt. Like, they just ran with it. And the documentary people are like, you were part of the bandwagon. And he was like, oh yeah, I was leading the bandwagon.
I feel like they would just turn the camera around and be like, on themselves. But yeah,
So,
it's. I think the takeaway is it's just scary.
Yeah. Pam Hobbs
every
also
way.
thinks Terry Hobbs could have done it. I think she's Pam Hicks now, obviously, because they're divorced. But she also knows the 3 men didn't do it. And she thinks he could have done it.
He had the potential.
Yeah. But anything I've said about Terry Hobbs or any of the other subjects or people, it's all alleged, all my opinion.
Obviously, yeah, otherwise they'd be in jail. Well,
yeah,
would they?
They're not. They're innocent until proven guilty. Where the 3 men who were arrested were guilty until proven innocent.
And
That's
still
what
are.
Jason Baldwin said. It's like we were guilty and we had to prove our innocence.
Yeah.
And it's not the American way. And I'm not even American. But protect your
It's just as
constitution, guys.
a human being, right? That's
Yeah.
what you think everyone should deserve. A
But
fair
yeah,
trial.
I'm so sorry for the long case and keeping you this long.
No,
today,
thank
but
you.
I
I
needed
found that interesting but harrowing.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to sum it up and end. So if you like the video, give us a like and subscribe to the channel, please. It really does make our day.
Yeah.
We do like it if people suggest any content that they would like. You can reach out on Instagram. I'm gonna tag the link in the description box below to the John Mark Byers.
Yeah. Do watch
compilation.
It's a wild ride.
It's just a bit of light relief after the episode, to be honest, because it's quite harrowing, obviously, what we talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, look after yourselves and see you later.
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yes.
Bye.